Hey everybody, and welcome to a gripping wild ride with Steve-O. We've got Mr. Ballen, and I'm very excited about this episode for multiple reasons. Number one, I consider him to be among the most talented storytellers on YouTube. I enjoy his videos. And number two, the technology that we brought to this episode is really next level, even for us. I mean, talk about high production value on both ends of a remote situation. Plus, the stories that Mr. Ballen tells me on this episode literally gripped me. And I'm sure they're going to grip you too. So without further ado, let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, people of the universe, I bring to you the preeminent storyteller of the internet, a Navy SEAL, and a real piece of ass. It's Mr. Ballen.
Thank you, dude. That's a heck of an intro, dude. I was watching your podcast a ton before this, and I was wondering what you're going to say. You nailed it, dude.
Oh, dude.
Thank you for having me on, man.
Well, you're pleasing to the eye. It's a shame that I can't be looking at you genuinely in person, but we've just really gotten all over the technology on this one. So highly sophisticated production on both ends of the call. And thank you for that, by the way. So
yeah, well, dude, I have no idea how this even works, recording digitally. I mean, pretty much if it's not Zoom, I have no concept of how to do this.
Right.
So the idea that it's working, that's good.
You know what? Like, I'm glad you say that because any video conferencing software, any program other than Zoom, 100% of the time, it just seems like I can't figure it out. Can't get it going. And I'm like,
no, I heard you talking about like some cameras and gigahertz and stuff. You sounded sophisticated. I got to be honest. I'm putting a lot of the credit on you for getting this going.
Well,
you sounded like you knew what you're doing over there in your van.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it, man. And I'm a fan of yours. I rave all the time about just true crime in general. Candidly.
Nice. Thank you.
Candidly, I consider the gold standard of true crime to be JCS. You got to be familiar with Jim Cantzman.
Oh, man. JCS. You kidding me? Yeah.
When there's a new
Dude,
JCS... I freak out when there's...
I was going to say, I actually, I'll throw this out there. So also, first of all, I want to say that I'm a massive fan of yours. Like, dude, Jackass was like the best show ever. What? Like, I saw all the movies. I can't believe I'm on the show with you. I got to be honest. This is wild to be connected with you here. So thank you.
Well, thank you, man.
But yeah, dude, JCS, there was that. So for those who don't know, JCS is this it's this YouTube channel that has maybe 10 videos on it now. It's some really small number of videos.
More than 10,
but it's a small number relative to the number of views and subscribers.
Right.
You'd look at this channel and it's like, wow, there's no content, but a bajillion views. And they look at footage of people getting interrogated, and this psychologist person dubs over it and basically tells you exactly what they're thinking in their head.
Yeah,
and it's just fascinating.
The insights.
And so
it's JCS criminal psychology and the way they break down the interrogation tactics, so that's the number one. I say number two in the straight true crime genre, Stay Awake. Are you familiar with Stay Awake?
I reasonably certain, obviously not well enough to describe it immediately, but I've definitely seen them on YouTube.
Yeah. And then then you've got EWU, Explore With Us. You've got Beyond Evil.
Of course.
Yeah,
dude, you crush this stuff, man.
I'm basically like a very disturbed person, and I just consume murder content all the time. So you are right up my alley.
Nice, man.
And can I ask, how old are you?
36.
36.
Holding on to 36. About to be 37.
And so you became a Navy SEAL at what age? 20?
Let's see. I joined the Navy when I was 22. I was a SEAL by 24. And then and then naturally after 7 years being in the Navy, I got out and became a storyteller on the internet, as one does. But yeah, no, I was in my 20s. 20s was the SEAL teams, and then, this wild thing was my my 30s.
Dude, it's incredible. The military experience, that Navy counts as military, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you were deployed in Afghanistan and had a near-death experience with like an explosion that.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Yeah. So
was it like a true near-death experience where you were on the other side and had a life review and like all that crazy stuff?
I mean, I don't know. I would say that I was probably seconds away from dying. So in the sense of like how close was I to death, I was definitely near death. To give the listeners and viewers context. So yeah, I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2013, 2014, first deployment as a SEAL. And it's quite a process becoming a SEAL takes about 2 years if you're successful. I mean, it can take longer. And then just getting ready for a deployment takes about, a year and a half. And so by the time you're deploying for your first time, you've really been in the military for almost like 4 years. It's quite an ordeal. But we got to go to Afghanistan. And it's sort of, if you think about, if you become a SEAL, you want to go see combat. I mean, it's kind of messed up in that way, but it's what you're being trained for. And so having the opportunity to go sort of employ your key skill sets was, exactly what I was hoping for in a way. My opinions changed since going, but when I got there, it in a funny way, in sort of a surreal way, combat was pretty much exactly what I thought it would be. It was a mixture of extreme boredom and nothing, and moments of such intense chaos that like you would become out of breath like instantly. You're getting shot at and like instantaneously you're out of breath. It's like your body can't handle what's happening, but you like jump into your muscle memory, so to speak. But anyways, at the end of this deployment, we're like our platoon of 25 SEALs, we were sort of like comfortable at this point. We've done a bunch of operations. It's like things are routine. And we went out on this operation where it sort of went bad for us from the get-go. We got shot a bunch. A couple of people, some of the people on our side got shot. But we couldn't ever really find the people who were shooting us. We were in this kind of urban area, and folks were like, they had these tunnels underground they would escape into. They were going into like secret hidey holes in buildings. And so it was kind of like we were getting our butts kicked. And we couldn't find anybody. It was like all day we're just getting periodically shot from nowhere, and then people just vanish. It was like really kind of frustrating. And then at the end of the night, as we're getting ready to make our way out of this urban area we were in, one of the drones overhead spotted what looked to be some military-age males sort of positioned in an area where it looked like they were sort of watching the road leading out of the town. Basically, it sort of looked like they were setting up to ambush us on the way out. And, due to rules of engagement, we couldn't just like arbitrarily like drop a bomb or something. We don't even know who they are. It's like you basically have to physically see who these people are, see if they're a threat. And even then, there's some rules about what you can and can't do. It boils down to you can't just like ambush people unless you're actively getting shot at. It just so happened that myself and the group that I was with, the SEALs that I was with, the 7 of us, we were just physically closest. And if you're looking at an overhead map, we were just closest to where these MAMs were, the military-age males. And so we're like, we're just going to go lay eyes on them and just literally see who they are. They could be civilians who are just caught in the crossfire, and it's no issue for us. So we ended up going down this alleyway. It's nighttime. We're on night vision. By this point, because there've been so much fighting over the course of the last several hours, like pretty much nobody's out. This town is like deserted. So if you see people out, it's sort of an indication they could be up to no good. Hence the reason we thought these guys could be bad. We go down this alleyway, we sneak down this alleyway, the 7 of us, and we get to this intersection where we're sort of like, we've walked up the base of the T. So imagine a T. You kind of walk up the T, and then looking straight ahead of us is the head of the T. And it's this like 6-7 foot high wall, this mud wall. And the intel we were given is we'd be able to get to that wall, look over the wall, and on the other side of this field, like 100 yards away, you could see these 3, 4, 5, military age males. For a variety of reasons, that it was miscommunicated to us. So by the time we walked down this intersection or this T intersection and got to that wall and looked over it, what happened is the military age males were actually on our side of that that field. So when we peered over the wall, they were literally on the immediate other side of the wall, like less than a foot away from us, but they hadn't heard or seen us yet. And so we glance over and we see them, and they're definitely combatants, armed, you name it, and they're talking to each other, but they haven't heard us because we're SEALs, we snuck down here. And so in silence, under night vision, we're sort of looking at each other like, what do we do? Again, we can't make any noise. There's a whole bunch of things we can't do, but it's like everyone's like looking at each other like, what's next? We ended up engaging them because we really had no other recourse. But two of them, I'm actually not even sure how many were on the other side of the wall. I think there might have been up to 7. Could have been as few as 2 or 3. But 2 of them had hand grenades that they were holding with the pins removed. And so the way hand grenades work are you have this thing called a spoon that you hold down. And when you pull the pin out, nothing happens. But if you let go of the spoon and the pin's been pulled, it starts a timer. And I think it's like 5 seconds, it detonates. And so basically they had pulled the pins, but were holding the spoon. If they die and they go slack, that releases the spoon, and they become, a suicide bomb, or it becomes a bomb after they're dead. And so as soon as we started engaging with them, they instinctively threw the grenades over the wall. And one of them actually bounced on my shoulder and landed on the ground next to me and detonated. And I tell people that when that happened, so we were by this point, we had a drone overhead that was using the infrared spotlight to illuminate us. So only on night vision could you see this light. Imagine like a flashlight from God shining straight down. Like you can see, it's like a cone of light coming down that you can only see under night vision. But they had it on like strobe, which typically means you're targeting something. You would strobe something on the ground to indicate where it was for aircraft. They shouldn't have been doing that. But the effect was under night vision, it's like you're in a strobe light. It's like you're in a club. It's like very disorienting. And I remember as soon as the grenade came over the wall under the strobe, it's like everything slowed down. It's like really time stood still. And I watched this grenade come over the wall, and it was illuminated by the strobe. And then a second later it would disappear, and it'd be illuminated again, and it's closer to my face, and then it disappears again. And it hit my shoulder. And when it did, I remember thinking, fuck, like I'm going to die. Like matter of fact, I'm about to die. And it's really bad that my head's going to get blown off. I can't have an open casket. Like no one's going to be able to see me. And like, that's all I'm thinking. It's like, fuck. Hits my shoulder. And again, it's under a strobe, and I see it, it disappears, and it goes down, and it falls to, my torso. Again, this is happening in a fraction of a second, but the way I remember it was like very slow. Reaches the halfway point, and I'm like, okay, gonna die, but at least this way, my face will be intact. And my mom can see me at my wake. And then it gets to the ground, and I'm like, oh, fuck, it might blow my legs off, and I might live. And so it ended up landing. We were there was actually sewage runoff in this alleyway. And so it lands in the sewage and detonates next to me and the 7 of us. It felt like somebody took a handful of rocks and just threw them at my leg and my back. 6 of the 7 of us were immediately incapacitated because the lethal range of a grenade, or at least a good grenade, is about 5 meters around. We're all in the lethal range. It's just complete chaos. Like we're shooting at each other, literally like as point blank as one can be. And the other fighters that were in the village were just arbitrarily firing rockets generally in the direction of where they saw gunfire. Like they don't care if they hit their own guys. This is like a suicide mission to begin with.
Wow.
And so it's just chaos. I'm like on the ground bleeding to death. The one guy on our team who was not immediately incapacitated was our medic. He was a SEAL, but he was also a medic. And he would describe like going into flow state and like pulling each of us out of like under fire, pulling us out. He pulled me out, put tourniquets on my legs. But there was this moment when I had been pulled out of the immediate sort of contact zone where we're still getting shot at. And there's no sense that we're going to make it out of this thing. And I was too weak just from blood loss to pull my tourniquets, which are these devices that tie off your limbs to stop you from bleeding, which, by the way, we put on our kits for easy access. That's the whole point. Like, you're dying, you need this. It should be easy to get to. But I was so weak, I couldn't pull it off. And I was laying in this alleyway. I've been dragged to relative safety at this point, but the alleyway was accessible by the fighters. They could walk into this alleyway if they wanted to. And so I know I'm bleeding to death. I'm also acutely aware that there are fighters that are converging on our spot, and they're going to wind up in this alleyway. I can't do anything about it. I can't get my tourniquets off, so I can't stop the bleeding coming from my leg. And so I'm like, I remember it sounded like a helicopter, like woof, woof, woof. Like as you start to lose your senses and stuff, it's this weird process where it sounds like a helicopter and then you go deaf. And so I'm totally deaf, and I'm staring up at like the moon, and I can kind of still see at this point, and it's like, holy shit, I'm bleeding to death. Or I'm going to be shot in a minute here by a combatant that comes down the alleyway. And then I lose my eyesight, and now I'm blind and deaf, but I'm totally alive. But I know this is the end. I'm dying, and it wasn't even sad, or really. It was more like completely matter of fact. I would equate it to when you wake up and go about your day, you don't actively think about the fact that like, oh, I'm living. This is me living. Like you just do it. You automatically do it. You are alive. Well, the same is true when you fucking die. Like your body's ready to shut down. You just don't know it. And it was like, yeah, you're about to die. And I remember a couple thoughts came across my mind. One, which was it is sort of sad. I thought about the fact that my wife and I had sort of stiff-armed having kids. It was like, oh, we'll get through a deployment and then we'll have kids. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not gonna have kids. That sucks. But then I also thought, I wonder what my obituary will say. Nothing substantive. Will it say John Allen killed in action, or will it say Jonathan Allen killed in action? And that was like the last salient thought I had. It's just matter of fact. I wonder what it'll say. And then my medic laid on top of me, put my tourniquets on, and then he, along with the other guys who've been battered and bruised, carried me out under a hail of gunfire, put me on a helicopter, and I was saved entirely by my teammate. I woke up in Germany like a day later.
Wow.
And now I'm telling YouTube stories. So that's the way she goes.
You've got a real knack for storytelling, John.
Oh, thank you.
I was genuinely gripped by that. What year was that?
That was Easter of 2014. So
Yeah.
April 2014.
Wow, man. Then you had a medical discharge from the military.
Yeah, so that was 2014. I actually didn't get medically retired until 2017. I came back from that deployment, and despite, the story I've just told you where I'm on death's door effectively, I ended up walking away with all my limbs. It was just a matter of stopping the bleeding, which my medic did. I still have 26 pieces of shrapnel in my leg and my hip, but honestly, it has almost no bearing on my life. I ended up getting the explosion of the grenade dislocated both my shoulders and it tore both labrums. So I just had to get surgery on one. But other than that, it was like, all right, you can just go deploy again.
Wow. Did you?
And I ended up deploying. Yeah, I did. I deployed a second time. But I mean, now looking back at it, dude, I was a fucking complete head case. Only now can I say this with absolute confidence. I was like the most obvious case of PTSD I was doing all the things that you would imagine like the stereotypical PTSD person would, like bottling up my emotions, getting super mad at everything, like feeling just angry all the fucking time. And I actually remember when I went to the second deployment, which was not combat. We went to South America and we're doing some training with Partner Force. But, we went to a part of the country we went to Peru, where they truly do not speak English there. Like, yeah, there are some people who speak English, but it's almost entirely Spanish speaking. And I remember, because it was not a combat deployment, I was so like, fuck this deployment. It's so stupid. Like, what's the point of this? What's the point of going to South America? I'm a Navy SEAL. I go to fucking Afghanistan. But what I didn't take into account is you're going to be in a totally foreign place. Forget combat. You're just going to be in a place that's nothing like home. And that's the part that I didn't really consider would have like a profound impact on me. So I go to South America, and I actually had to go separately from the few guys I was going with. And I get to the airport in Peru. Again, there's no combat. I'm wearing civilian clothes. Like, this is practically a vacation. I don't speak a lick of Spanish. I was supposed to. I was supposed to take Spanish pretty seriously. Didn't do that. Get to the airport in Peru, and I landed basically at a gate that I wasn't supposed to, and I didn't know how to get to my driver, and it's so crowded. I can't speak Spanish. And it was like I had like a panic attack. Like, holy shit. Like, I didn't put any thought into this. And I'm going to be living in Peru for the next 6 months. I don't even know how to exit the airport. Like, I feel like a fish out of water here. And my mental health just went completely down the drain on that deployment, really for no other reason than I think just I came back from Afghanistan, and it was like, do everything in your power to not be a pussy and like get back into a rotation, deploy again, because that's what Navy SEALs do. And then I finally get to deploy again, and I was just like a waste of space, just mentally unwell. I got to that deployment, but it was like I really was like a mental head case, came home, And I had like residual issues, physical issues that I had to begin dealing with from the grenade, like from the shrapnel, like the physical therapy and shit to deal with what's going on with my leg and my hips. It's like I feel like I'm like this old man in a 20-something-year-old's body, and I was just like pissed at everybody. And so I ended up going to my corpsman, who's like your medic, just to talk about all these physical issues I was dealing with. And I guess I gave the impression that I was just like fucking mad at the world. And he's like, dude, before you get your fucking like scar tissue dealt with and stuff, why don't you go like see the psych? Just talk to the psych. You're a mess. And I did. I talked to the psych, and it was like so much pent up rage and trauma and all the things from like this. Comparatively speaking, there are dudes that I don't know how they function in the SEAL teams, do like 10 consecutive combat tours. I did one, dude, and it like fucking rocked my world. And so it opened up like what's called like a medical investigation or whatever. The psych was like, look, you are not fit to continue here. They looked into my history, and it was like, you have serious physical ailments and you're a fucking mental head case. You are not a fit to be here. And I frankly was ready to rip out anyways. And so I would have left, but I ended up getting medically retired for a combination of effectively physical injuries from the grenade and just a string of medical or mental stuff over the next few years.
Wow.
So yeah. So
what was the deployment in South America? Like, what was the purpose of you guys being there?
So basically, if you think about special operations, Navy SEALs fall into the umbrella category of special operations. You know, on the one hand, you have sort of like the sexy stuff that people think of when they think of special operations, which is effectively combat, like targeted combat operations where, you know, think of any movie about hardcore spec op guys, they're jumping out of planes and like shooting bad guys. But the truth is, there's such an enormous amount of training that goes into becoming a special operator that basically every branch loans out, and loans not the right word, but loans out some of their operators to other countries to exchange information. So like we would train with the Dutch, who are world renowned. Their Dutch special forces were world renowned for underwater diving. Like they're unbelievable at diving, which there's one of the vehicles, one of the platforms we would use for insertion and for operations is underwater diving, like all blacked out, sneaking into harbors and stuff. And the Dutch are like unbelievable. And so we would like train with them, and they would teach us certain techniques that maybe, you know, only they would know. And in exchange, we would teach them stuff like close quarters combat, which is, you know, clearing buildings, you know, really technical movements inside of a house with live weapons. Which is something that SEALs are really good at. So it's like an exchange of really valuable information. It's sort of like that. We went to South America to both oversee some stuff that Peruvian special operations were doing, and then also to offer effectively our training. Like, hey, we'll give you information that millions of dollars has been poured into the SEAL teams to get. So it's an exchange of information and sort of like, yeah, training, actually.
Okay.
I just, to simplify it, it's training.
So you were in South America to train with Dutch people?
Actually, no. I was in Peru to train Peruvian special operations, and then the Dutch was just a separate, like,
right.
That wasn't even a deployment. We would do these little stints of like weeks and months here and there with random special operations groups like the Dutch.
I ask you that question because I'll never forget watching a documentary about the Afghan war called Restrepo. And
oh, I've seen it.
This, you know, like I think it might have been nominated for an Oscar. You know, like it was highly
Probably.
acclaimed. And my takeaway from this objective documentary, which just covered the military activity going on in Afghanistan, was that nobody over there could discern, it seemingly, why they were there or what they were doing. You know, it was like very difficult to even like speculate what the actual plan was, because it seemed that the Afghan people really didn't want any help, you know, and like identifying any like real enemy combatants like was like super hard to do, because, you know, everything all just kind of blended together. Like the idea was that I guess the story that was told was that, oh, we're over here trying to help these people. You know, we've taken down their they're Taliban, and so we're helping them like structure their own government. We're getting them back on their feet, but like, just felt like such a shit show. It seems just so frustrating. So I was wondering, did you feel that way when you were in Afghanistan? And did you feel not that way when you were in South America?
Yeah, dude. Honestly, that's one of the key issues that I dealt with post Afghanistan. Specifically, this idea of not really knowing why we were there. Which, by the way, like there certainly were reasons given to us. It isn't like people were like, "Oh, we don't know." Like there were reasons. There were mission sets we were supposed to be a part of. And again, I mean, like, I think it's important to note that my experience is really limited to a single deployment to Afghanistan. There are other folks that have done dozens, that have a much deeper understanding of what that's like. So, take it with a grain of salt. But for me, dude, it was tough. I remember there was one particular time. So one of the things that I did in Afghanistan is I worked a lot with our partner force. So one of the things that we would do is anytime we went out on an operation, the SEALs, we wouldn't just like randomly go out on our own. It broke rules of engagement in 2014. It was like you had to advise and assist your partner force to do operations. Effectively, you had to team up with the local people to do it. And one of my roles was I would work with the Afghan local police who were, there was issues working with them, but some of them were very good people. They just were sort of caught between a rock and a hard place. It's kind of like they can either work with the local police and try to defend their town against the Taliban or be like killed by the Taliban. So it's sort of like it's a tough place to be. But as a result of being the actual person on our team that was the interface between our partner force, I sort of defaulted into the role also of when we were on target. So anytime we were on a mission, at the end of the mission, so at the end of the operation, I should say, let's say we go out and we go into a village, and whether there's a gunfight or not, like we go out there in search of a weapons cache, a suicide bomber, whatever it is, at the end of that mission, successful or not, there's like a post-mission sort of, I don't know how you describe it, like a wrap-up that happens. And one of those things is people you find on target, and this is not sensitive, this is just like general tactics. People you find on target, good, bad, or otherwise, you often want to talk to just see if you can get more information. And it could be as simple as literally talking to a local and saying, "Hey, we heard there was a weapons cache here and we didn't find it. Do you know where it is?" And a lot of times they're not going to tell you, but some people would. I ended up being the person that was often the one asking that question. I had an interpreter, we would ask these questions, and a lot of times it was really that simple. One of the really difficult things that I would run into is let's say we got into a gunfight, which honestly, that makes it sound really glorious. A lot of times they're incredibly quick at a distance and nothing gets shot. Like guns were fired, but no one actually got shot. Like everybody got missed, right? But we would have these post-op talking tos of locals, and I'd be talking to these kids who were like 16 years old, 14, 15, 16 years old. And we know this kid was shooting at us a minute ago. Like we know they were. We saw, that's why we rounded them up. And I would have to ask these kids, why were you doing that? Like we're not gonna like harm them. At this point, they're not a threat. They're not shooting us. But these kids are literally being effectively conscripted by the Taliban to, you better shoot the Americans when they show up, or we're gonna kill your family, or we're gonna kill you, or something like that. A 16-year-old kid, right? And here I am, the big old Navy SEAL with every piece of tactical equipment that you can possibly own, the best weaponry. I have the full arsenal of the entire like United States behind me. And I'm like demanding that this poor 16-year-old kid tell me why you were shooting at me when I know the answer. You have no choice. And then it's like we turn over the 16-year-old kid to the locals because that's the procedure. But I don't know what happens to that kid. I don't know what happens to him. And like I've had these conversations with kids who are just like forced to be in this horrible, like completely futile situation. And I think about my own children. I think about me, like what would I even do in that situation? And it made me feel so fucking horrible after the fact. Not so much during, because it's like, I'm doing my job. This kid was just shooting at me. What can you do? But after the fact, I have thought so much about those kids that are just in the worst possible position you could possibly imagine. And that's really stuck with me more than anything else. And it made me become deeply resentful of why we were there. You know, like, what are we doing, guys? There's got to be a better way.
It's frustrating.
And that's been tough to grapple with. And especially like even just saying combatants, talking about my near-death experience. Dude, I don't even know who they were.
Right.
I don't know what they were doing. For all I know, it's the same kids.
Right.
The kids who have no choice, who were chucking grenades at me. Guess what? They got killed. I didn't. You know, it's like, anyways, so to your question, yeah, it's been tough, man. Like, and I think that's part of the reason that a lot of veterans struggle post-deployment, at least specifically with Afghanistan. I can't speak to a lot of other experiences. It's like you suddenly have clarity on what you did. You know, it's like you're trained to go to war, and there's a certain level of, I'm going to call it brainwashing, that has to occur for young men in their prime to go fight and die for reasons they don't understand.
Right.
There's a level of brainwashing that has to occur. But then after the fact, you're left with this sort of reconciliation you have to do, which is, oh, wow, now I kind of see it differently and I don't like what I was doing, but it's too late. And you're part of a machine, and it's like pretty difficult to reconcile that.
Right. Man, it's so crazy. And thank you for sharing all that, man.
Man.
It's a big deal. Now,
so anyways,
setting that aside, I wonder, like, when I look at the content that you create, the stories that you tell, like, it's it's just really interesting the way that you can tell such unsettling, disturbing, like, stories of just everything that's awful within humans, but you do so in such a wholesome and family-friendly way. Like, I think that you've really mastered, like, a balance between, like, just delivering upsetting shit, but making people feel, very comfortable and safe about it. Like, I suppose that's not a question, it's more of a comment, but what's wrong with people? You know what I mean? Like,
oh man. Well, honestly, on that the style that I've sort of adopted definitely was not something that was concocted. Actually, if anything, it was, when I first decided to actually start making these videos, I remember thinking, like, I like it when someone specific, like a real person, is telling me a story versus hearing somebody's voice narrating over video. Like, just any content, I would prefer to see a human being using their mouth and seeing them do it and telling me the story. And so that wasn't very common amongst, I guess, storytellers on YouTube, especially in the sort of strange, dark, and mysterious genre.
Right.
It was mostly like narration, voice dub over like unsettling imagery in videos, which is far more challenging to do. The choice I made to do that was entirely because I'm like, I think that a story is more engaging when you can see the person telling it to you, at least in my opinion. And so that is the entire reason for it. It was not like, boy, this is going to drive up views. It was like, that's what I would like. So I'd do that. But then in terms of what's wrong with people, dude, man, that's a separate one altogether.
Yeah, I mean, on the, the being on camera and telling the story in a very personal and engaging way, I gotta believe that you inspired another one of my favorite channels, Crime Zone, with
and now I feel horrible. I don't know who Crime Zone is. I guess I'm a horrible role model.
This great channel from
Crime
Canada.
Zone.
It's a couple
I gotta
brothers.
look this up.
The guy who's on camera telling the story his name is Nigel, and it's very, very similar to your approach, and I gotta believe that they're inspired by you. Crime Zone.
I hope so. That's cool.
Like,
I just looked them up. I bookmarked it.
Yeah, shout out to those guys.
Crime.
Yeah, and like I've wondered too, like with all the, because I'm such a degenerate. I consume so much true crime. It's like unbelievable. And when somebody commits a murder, comes up with a plan, tries, like I honestly think to myself, well, they didn't watch enough true crime. I think that, I wonder if you would agree with this. People who are like fanatical consumers of true crime content are considerably less likely to commit murders or like other serious crime, because you just like you're pretty well educated that like you're not going to get away with it, you know. Not that I have any.
That's got to be true.
You know, like
that's got to be true, man.
it's got to be true. And you know, same as with once you get in the interrogation room, anybody who consumes a lot of true crime content is going to say, "I want a lawyer." Right away.
Yeah, immediately.
And
it's true.
It blows my mind how, like, at this point, with all of the true crime, the first 48 on A&E, the like, you know, like all of these criminal psychology, they're just like, and yet, like even hardened criminals, like genuine gangsters, just go in there and just start talking.
Yeah. It is pretty remarkable that there's this plethora of information that would teach you all the simplest and most direct ways not to get caught. Yet the content that's being made is a product of people not listening to it over and over
Right.
and over again.
You got to think that it's like it's the snake that's going to eat its own tail or whatever, you know, like it's going to ultimately
true,
like the true crime genre is going to destroy itself. That would be the worst.
Yeah, basically, dude.
So let's peel back the curtain if we can to kind of figure out like the workflow and where it comes. And by the way, I want to say that, like, man, am I jealous that you have this thriving career, this like unbelievable robust operation, which doesn't require you to like move mountains doing things like you get to tell stories that aren't about you. I want that so much. I recently made my first real legitimate effort to this end by doing a listicle video where I broke down the top 10 deadliest and most dangerous viral TikTok challenge trends. You know, like everybody's heard of
that's interesting.
Everybody's heard of the Tide Pod challenge. Like people were actually eating Tide Pods, and I was fascinated by this, and I felt that I was uniquely. I was in a good position to say, you know what? Like, I've personally devoted my life and my career to doing the dumbest things I can think of for the most attention possible. And and I can't believe that people were out there eating Tide Pods, stuff like that, you know? Like,
that's saying something.
Yeah, I felt that was appropriate for me, and I was like, man, if this video is successful, just going through like all the, you know, the various challenges, like I literally did it. Starting like from the lowest death toll to the highest death toll. You know, like
what was the highest death toll?
The highest death toll was man, it'll get this flagged if I go into it.
Don't do it. You got to check it out. What's the title of the video?
The deadliest most dangerous TikTok trends.
I got to check this out, dude. No, I got to see this.
Yeah, but in Russia alone, the deadliest one had 130 deaths.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's crazy. I remember
it was a global problem. Yeah,
I gotta check that out, dude.
So,
but yeah, no, dude, it's definitely something that having effectively. It's sad in a way. You know, it's like the reason there's so much content for me to cover is because so many horrible things happen all the time. Like you're not going to run out because humans continue to do horrible things to each other. And accidents and you name it happens all the time. So to be honest, like it sort of it meshes together two things really well, which is I really am somebody that I have a proclivity towards talking and telling stories. That's what I want to do. And there's this sort of seemingly endless supply, you know, it's sort of messed up to say it, but there's an endless supply of this type of content, and the trifecta being lots of people want to watch it. And a fourth would be, and everyone's on their phones watching stuff anyways. So it's sort of like quite the concoction of ingredients.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. And by the way, my deadly TikTok trends video, it was not a hit. It's like, no, That's like, no, people are like, Steve-O, you're going to have to get banged up. You know, if it's not about you getting banged up, then we're not tuning in.
Dude, that's have you actually found that like now people still are like, come on, dude, like you got to hurt yourself?
It depends. It's a little bit of a conundrum that, like, you know, the stuff in my career, the more high impact stuff, like, you know, if I make a video like, oh, my 10 most painful, you know, then that's gonna crush, you know. So
of course, yeah.
But then again, at the same time, I've you know, relocated. I moved out to Tennessee, where I'm at now. I've got this big property, and you know, it's an animal sanctuary, and we do wild, fun stuff here.
That's awesome.
Content that revolves around the property and the animal sanctuary is actually quite well received too. So it's not a totally.
That's great. And you have two New York Times best-selling books, or at least one I saw.
Yeah, I got
your first book was New York Times. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the one. Yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. Like, dude, I've got nothing to complain about. I'm 50 years old.
And a sold-out tour, dude. Well, dude, you're doing well for yourself, man.
I'm 50 years old and I'm still getting away with it. It's ridiculous. But
well, I see your clips of your podcast, specifically your clips, pop up all over my feed, and it's not me glazing you. That's the truth. Yeah, dude. Like, I just saw one with you and Mark Wahlberg. I think I was looking up Pat Bet David, so I saw the one with you did with him. I saw Penguin Z0, who I had to watch that again to see that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
But dude, your clips go viral on YouTube, at least for me. I see them all the time.
Well, thank you so much, man. That means the world to me.
Hell yeah.
Now, okay, so how big is your team for creating the team is it's MrBallen's Studios. That's the operation.
Yep. Yeah. So MrBallen's Studios is the overarching company, and that includes, you know, the Mr. Ballen podcast, includes Mr. Ballen YouTube channel. We have, I believe it's 7 other creators that are under our management arm as well. We have several podcasts that they create. There's Runful, Wartime Stories, Bedtime Stories, Redacted with Luke Lamanna. We have today or yesterday, we have late nights with Nexpo. I think that's all of them. We have Medical Mysteries. We have a whole slate of shows. But I think in total, across all the shows, the management arm, and if you include our foundation as well, I think last I checked, we have 79 employees, and that includes contract workers as well. So, but to be honest, dude, it happened quickly, but at the same time, sort of not quickly. Like, we started with a handful of us.
Sure.
And with each subsequent project, we would just establish a couple more people for that project. And I was very lucky early on. I'm talking. So I sort of first went viral in early 2020. It actually was literally right before the pandemic. Like, I remember people were like talking about COVID, and they were like, "Oh, it's probably just going to go away."
Right,
you know, that's the phase we were at.
And that was on TikTok, right?
That was on TikTok. Yeah, I actually was trying to like make it on TikTok, just failing horribly. I was doing like cringy dance videos and like,
oh my God, wow.
You know, like auto-tune singing. Yeah, just stuff that was just awful, like sketch comedy that now I watch it and it's like physically painful to watch it. So it was horrible. And I remember thinking like, dude, what the hell? Like, I'm a pretty clever guy. Like, why don't people care about this stuff? But in early 2020, I was actually getting ready to hang up the social media cleats, because I'm like, it's not working. I guess, you know, a 30-something-year-old dude on TikTok is not as interesting as all the kids. So I wasn't getting the attention I was hoping for. But I've always loved telling stories, and I also myself have always been really personally interested in just mysteries, like true mysteries, whether it's true crime or just some crazy thing about the world, like stuff that makes you question reality a little bit, or stuff that makes you question what's out there. And there was this one mystery in particular that I thought, and still do think, is fascinating. It's the Dyatlov Pass mystery. And I'll tell you the story briefly in a minute, but I was at this indoor water park in early 2020 with my wife and my 3 kids. We always go to indoor water parks. That's kind of our go-to vacation. And I was very frustrated. Nothing was working on my TikTok account. And I was like, you know what? What I'll try is I'll just tell a story. I'll tell the Dyatlov Pass mystery, just because I think that's really cool. And it's it's funny. I look back and I remember thinking like, no one's going to like this. Like, I've done these horrible sketch comedy videos that were like objectively awful. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I can't believe people don't like this. But this mystery, I was like, oh, this is trash. I don't know what people are going to think of me. But I record this 60-second version of the Dyatlov Pass mystery, which I'll tell you in a second, and I post it. But I was at this water park, and I was going to be down in the water with my kids. And so I upload this video. I tell my wife and kids, I'll meet you down there. I post the video to my like non-existent TikTok account, leave my phone in the room, and I go down to the water park. And then a few hours later, I came back to the room. And I was like, oh, let's see how my stupid video is doing. And I couldn't even open my phone. Like there were so many notifications popping into my phone. It like didn't work. And there was over 5 million views on this video. You know, I'd never received more than like a couple 100,000 over like a year, you know? So this is like viral times infinity for me. The story was, so in the 1950s, there were these 9 hikers in Soviet Russia that were going out to take what's called their level 3 hikers test, which sounds sort of lame, but in the 1950s in Russia, this was like the top mountaineering qualification you could possibly earn. This is like, you are the GOAT of mountaineering if you pass this test. And these 9 hikers, they're all in their 20s. They're like the best mountaineers in Russia. And really, it's sort of a formality doing the level 3 test. It's like just getting to that point in your career to have the chance suggests you're already a level 3 climber. But basically, the way you do the test is you map out this, you know, it needs to be a certain level of difficulty, but you map out this long course through whatever mountain range you're going to choose. And you need to hit certain gradients and pick areas that are particularly challenging. But you set up checkpoints along your route and you tell people about these checkpoints, the test givers, if you will. And they have like campsites that are going to be set up at these respective checkpoints. And the idea is once they begin their test, they just follow the route that they've mapped out, and they have to hit each of their checkpoints in a certain time frame. Failure to do that not only fails the test, but also immediately enacts a search and rescue party, because this is a pretty dangerous thing they're doing. And so these 9 hikers, they set out on this journey and they bring cameras, and the pictures are so creepy because they're in such good spirits. And it's weird, like the pictures are from the 1950s, but the people in the pictures, the hikers, they look like modern day people. It's hard to put it, it's hard to describe it better than that, but just their expressions, what they're wearing, like their general just sentiment about how excited they were. It's like, you're looking at modern day people here. And so off they go into the Ural Mountains, and they're taking pictures the whole time. And the Ural Mountains are like treacherous, huge, snow-capped, massive mountains. There's like no forest anywhere. And so off they go. And I forget if they made their first checkpoint or not, but I think it was by their second checkpoint. They don't hit it. So they've been off on their journey now for at least a week, and they fail to hit this checkpoint. And so one, they failed the test, but bigger than that, there's this protocol to go look for them. Search and rescue gets enacted. And it actually included the military. It's like a really big deal to go find these people as quickly as you can. And so the search party begins following the route that they know they're supposed to be on. And they start backtracking, and they reach this huge pass between these 2 mountains, like massive, massive mountains. And the search party looks up and they see there's these tents that are situated on the face of one of the mountains. And immediately they're thinking, one, it has to be the missing hikers. But 2, why in the world would they put their tents there? They're on the strategically worst possible spot you could choose on a mountain. If you're going to pitch a tent, you're going to do it at the base, or you're going to do it maybe at the top, but in the middle, it's basically windswept. It's just wind shear. There's no cover. It's like, hey, do you want to die? Put your tents right there. So these are the best climbers in Russia. And immediately they're like, why did they camp there? But either way, they trudge up to these tents, and the search party also has cameras. So there's pictures of all this. They get up to the tents, and the tents are still anchored into the ground. They're these, imagine just typical canvas pitch tents. And I think there's 2 or 3 of them, and all the hikers are gone. There's no hikers in them. But the tents have been cut open. They've been cut open with a knife, and they appear to be cut open from the inside out. So one of the hikers, or multiple hikers, cut the tents open and then apparently exited the tents that way. And then in these tents are a lot of the hikers' clothing, like stacked neatly in the corner. So like neatly left behind clothes and boots. The tents are open, and they actually discover there are footprints that are coming away from one of the tents going back down the mountain. And so the search party follows these footprints in the snow, and they see that some of these prints show there are bare feet. So this is, again, negative 40 degrees. It's in the Ural Mountains. There's no reason to be barefoot, but here they are. And they follow the trail down to this small crops of trees, which is at the base of these mountains, just a very small little cluster of trees. And they find the first, I think it was 3, it could have been 4 of the hikers who were all deceased. There was this one central tree, and next to it on the ground was this crappy little fire, this burned out fire. And one of the hikers is kind of curled next to the fire, like he was desperately trying to get warm, but he's only in underwear and he's deceased. He's died of exposure. There's another hiker that's sort of laying off on the ground as well, also deceased, also died from exposure. And there's another hiker who's in the tree, who's sort of draped over the branches and who's deceased, all of which died from exposure. But there's all these deep gouges on the tree, like incredibly deep. Imagine like a bear, but like a super bear, like just wrecking this tree. And there's no animals anywhere. This is like the middle of nowhere. So there's all these marks in the tree, as if this guy had scampered up the tree to avoid whatever it was and then died up there. They see there are more footprints from this crops of trees in these first 3 hikers. It was 3 that carried on sort of back in the direction the search party came from. And so they follow those footprints, again, more barefoot footprints, and they get to this big snowdrift that effectively created a big snow cave. And in the snow cave is the rest of the hikers, and they're all deceased. They're all dead from basically exposure, except in the snow cave, it's a little bit different. One of the hikers who was deceased, he died from a chest injury. They would find this out after the fact during the autopsy, but the chest injury was his chest basically was caved in. They equated it to being hit by a car going like 70 miles an hour. Like that's how hard he got hit in the chest. But he had no bruising anywhere on his chest. There was no physical injuries. It was just his chest. It was like someone had just like squeezed his chest together and crushed his chest. There was a woman whose nose, her ears, and her lips had been removed. We're not talking like predation from an animal. It was like, it looked almost like incisions had been made on her face and removed parts of her face. The men and women had exchanged their clothing. So the men were wearing women's clothing, not entirely, but some had women's clothing and some had female clothing. And their clothing had trace levels of radiation. At the same time, so they've all been found dead, and there's no idea what's happened to them. At the same time, there's this investigation that's launched because the families, they want to know what happened to their loved ones. The Soviet government, they discovered that in the same time frame that those hikers were out there on the first leg of this journey when they went missing and when they died, there was this senior military official who was running this huge exercise, like hundreds and hundreds of soldiers in the Ural Mountains, but they have no idea about these hikers, these level 3 hiker test hikers. They have no clue. They are out in the middle of the Ural Mountains doing this military exercise. And the senior military official, for the first time in his 20, 30-year career, called in that he's like, hey, there's some strange lights in the sky right in that direction. And he's pointing in the direction unknowingly over the section of the mountain where the hikers had all died. Like he'd never made any call like this in his entire career, but he was like, I'm telling you, there's something happening in this section of the sky. He was concerned that they were actually being invaded, but he described lights popping up and down in the same area these hikers have gone missing. So the Soviet government has this investigation, and they very quickly shut the investigation down, and they say, no one can look into this. And their conclusion was, they told the families, well, what we found out is an unnatural, unknown force killed your family. And they closed the case.
Wow.
The end. So there's pictures of that. Told 60-second version of that. It went super viral, kept telling more stories like that one, and it sort of took off from there.
But before we go any further, I want you to tell me about your book. You got this, it's animated. Yeah, it's got like graphic images, like really graphic images.
Yeah, it's a graphic novel. It's a graphic novel. Yep, that's right. So we did a graphic novel last year. It's a collection of 9 stories that sort of are not connected to each other. It's like an anthology collection of stories. And really, it's like an homage to our YouTube channel, it's sort of like the graphical representation of actually what I just told you, like that type of story, the Dyatlov Pass mystery. Imagine that converted to text and imagery in the book. And it became a New York Times bestseller. And we launched it in October of last year. And we are working on the second one as we speak.
Wow.
And
Okay.
we hope to make many more. Yeah.
So yeah, that's I didn't realize that it was already out. Like that October of last
Came
year.
out in October. Yeah. We launched it. So I don't know about your experience with. I know you went on tour. You had a sold out tour that you did last year. Was it last year? Have you done multiple tours?
I've been
You did the one last year.
I've been touring for a long time. You know, what like I do.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I do a tour and then I'll
But dude,
take
I
the show
had
and
my
then put together a new one.
I had my first experience with touring last year, just basically doing stand up storytelling, if you will, and I thought it was awesome. But we launched the book at the same time we went on tour, so it sort of was like a book tour slash. Speaking tour, if you will. But do you like touring? I mean, it sounds like you have a really unique show. Yeah, dude, it's rad.
Yeah, I love it, especially once I started traveling on a bus. Because
I did a bus tour too. It was pretty awesome.
Checking in and out of hotels, going through airports and all that's really wears me down. But when I'm just hanging out with the bros on the bus and the bus you magically wake up at your next spot. That's awesome.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What was
I had a great experience.
What was your first experience with like seeing your book on a shelf?
Oh man. It's funny. Like I would actually say my first experience of like, holy shit, we have a book was actually when we had done all this work. Like there's so many people involved, as you know, like putting a book together, there's a lot of people that goes into it. But we got to the place where we were ready to announce that we really have this book. Like it had been theoretical. We were telling our audience like, yep, we're making a book, but it was just sort of like we talked about it. We didn't have an object to hold or art to show. And our publisher sent us this like fake book. It basically they put the cover. Yeah, so it's an empty book. There's nothing in it.
Well,
but
it'll be like it'll be some random other
book
that they
copy.
Put out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But they put
and I remember they sent
like when they put your sleeve over someone else's book.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And so I got my fake book, but it was the real cover art.
Sure.
And I remember just looking at that and holding the weight of the book was so cool. And it's empty, but that was a cool moment. And then seeing it in Walmart, I think that was when it came full circle.
In Walmart.
Like, wow.
I don't think I ever had a book
Yeah,
in
dude,
Walmart.
that was pretty good. That was pretty good. We were actually on tour. We went to a Walmart on tour and I signed it and shot a video of me like, hey, if you're at this Walmart, here's a signed copy of this book. But yeah, dude, it was really cool, man.
Man, that's fantastic.
What about you, dude? When you launched your book, I mean, what did that feel like for you? Your first one.
Yeah, the first one, it was, yeah, dude, it was epic, man. Like, I think that I had always imagined that I was going to have a book. If anything, like, I've just always been such an attention whore and it's just so, like, wanted to be notable and people to think I'm rad that it's almost like I deliberately lived my life so that it would be rad to tell the story of it.
For a book.
Yeah. I was kind of like, my whole life, I was like a book in the making.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, from when I dropped out of the University of Miami and I'm just going around like having the government test drugs on me. And I was just like, yeah, everything was just a little notch in my belt. Like, that'll be good for the story, So it
must have been hard to like pull all that shit and choose the anecdotes you wanted to for your book.
Yeah,
it must have been hard to do that.
I worked with a really, really talented guy.
I bet.
I worked with on both of my books. I worked with a tremendously talented co-author, not a ghostwriter, like a co-author. His name's David Peisner, and nice. I can't say enough about how talented that guy is. It's fantastic. Really good experience with them, and when it came out, to learn that I was a New York Times bestseller was crazy. It was
yeah, dude. I've been really lucky. So I sort of I was about to get into this, but didn't early on when YouTube sort of took off. So I had that viral moment on TikTok, and then within 6 months I was posting videos on YouTube, and it was like a career at that point. Things were happening quick for me in the sense that the channel was growing and like all the things you would hope for were sort of happening, as you envision how YouTube might go. And I remember being really overwhelmed by just random email inbounds I was getting that ranged from, other creators just literally being like, yo, what's up? Like, I saw your channel, it's cool, to, brands, soliciting potentially a partnership. And I had no sense of like how to gauge what was good and what was bad. And I was so primed, I think maybe from my time in the military, to be like skeptical of everything, that I just didn't want to work with anybody. And so I basically deleted all my emails without reading them. I just couldn't do it. I just had to delete everything. And then I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. This is like 6 months into doing YouTube. And so at this point, it's like, I'm kind of getting burned out, because it's like I'm putting out 5 videos a week. I'm doing it entirely on my own, minus my editor, who's awesome. But I was like really getting burned out, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this, because like outwardly the channel's growing and like there's all these people that want to work with me, but inwardly it's like I've become a raging alcoholic and I don't sleep and my fucking wife hates me. Yeah, like things aren't going too well internally. And I remember my house flooded. We moved into this house in Pennsylvania. And like, no shit, it flooded. Not like it flooded and there's a little bit of water in the corner. I'm talking like things were floating in the basement, flooded.
Wow.
But that's where I shot my videos. I recorded in the basement. And I remember I was sitting at my shitty little fold out table with my laptop on it, my green screen behind me. I'm up to ankle deep water. And it was like, I don't know, midnight or it was late at night. And I had an all-nighter ahead of me to like write and shoot another video that I hadn't even come up with yet. It's like, I hate my life. And I was like, you know what? I need to see what those emails include. Maybe there's somebody who can help me right now. And I open up my email, and at the top of my inbox is this message from this dude named Nick Witters. And it was like, the header was something to the effect of like, military vet, I can help you. Like whatever it was some basic pitch of, I'm a military guy and I can help you. And I open it up, and it was like the exact guy I needed to talk to. I didn't know it at the time, but he was it. He's a lawyer, combat vet. He was a talent agent on the traditional side at WME. He repped like Justin Timberlake and Jason Momoa, or he worked with their teams, I should say. And then he was also at Night Media, the big digital agency, and he was Mr. Beast's day-to-day manager. He was one of the managers of Mr. Beast. And he was just like out there sort of looking for another person to work with. And I'm like, dude, I don't know you, but I hate my fucking life right now. And no one understands what I'm doing. And he came in, and he's like my best bud now. And he's the CEO of Ballen's Studios. He's my manager. And like all the things that have happened, from book to tour to bringing in all these other creators and launching new shows. I mean, all of it, dude, all of it. Nick Witters. My job is I tell fucking stories. Nothing else. It's like there's this complete separation. But without Nick, man, I honestly believe I probably would have shut things down that year, because I have 3 kids. It's like I made good money on YouTube. I could totally stop and be like, dude, we're pretty good. We can like hang out now. But with Nick coming in, it really went from being a one-man band, like typical YouTube archetype of make it, like last for a little while, burn out, fade into the distance. Now with Nick, it's like I was beginning to die, even though nobody knew it. And then he picked it up, and now we're here. And now I'm sober. I'm sober since May 5th of last year.
Yeah,
and you're 14 years. I go, yeah, bro. I went completely sober. I'm feeling really good now. But it's because Nick came in at the right time, man. Thanks, bro. You too, dude. I don't know how. Dude, it's fucking so hard.
Well, it's easier than the alternative, that's for sure.
Dude, it was so bad. Like I've always struggled with like moderation, I would say.
Sure.
I've definitely been like an obsessive person.
Sure.
I'm sure you can relate.
Oh,
like
yeah.
if I like something, I have to do it a million times, even if it's bad for me. And I was getting so stressed about YouTube, in those early days. The way I was coping was I was finishing up a shoot, which was me shooting with my iPhone in the back room of my house at like fucking 3 a.m. And then I would just like slam White Claws, just like White Claws, because it didn't give me as much of a hangover. But dude, I wouldn't even like stay awake for it. I would literally just crush like 6 to 12 White Claws and just go to bed like every fucking day. And then I'd wake up and I would just feel horrible and do it all over again.
Yeah.
But it was like, it got to the point where it was like I had to. Every time I made a video, it's like I had to immediately go drink. And it got so bad. I was hiding stuff around my house, and I kept telling my wife I was going to stop, but then I didn't. I'd stop for like a month, and before long I'm back and doing my routine. And well before YouTube, I definitely struggled with it too, but less so. But it really got pronounced during YouTube, and it was one of those things where like it was hard for me to go to anybody and complain because it's like from an outward perspective, I have all the things you could possibly ask for. And it seems so self-inflicted that I'm like, I just can't stop binge drinking at night, you know? So,
Right.
but I stopped May 5th and it's really, I've lost, like 15 pounds and my wife loves me again,
Nice.
so things are good now.
That's so great, man. I remember, like, it's been a while now, but I remember seeing a big billboard announcing that your MrBallen podcast was exclusive to Amazon. And I remember thinking, wow, that looks like Amazon's equivalent to what Spotify did with Joe Rogan. Like, was that like just a major windfall moment for you, like it was for Rogan? And did Amazon require that you stop uploading their content to YouTube because they want it to be exclusive to their, like, what was the Amazon deal like?
Dude, that was so wild. Because, so I will say this, and this is going to sound like such like lame corporate speak here, but it's actually the truth. I would probably say it differently if it was not true. Working with Wondery, which is their studio that we actually work day to day with, that's Amazon Music Studio, has been amazing. And I think that if it hadn't been for that, it would be tough to look at this relationship as being as successful as it was, because it's like every day we're working with Wondery and we build shows with them and they're so collaborative and we're like friends with their team. It's been wonderful. So just like purely on the like partnership side with them, it's really been excellent. And I really hope to continue working with them for a long time. But in terms of like the moment, that it went from sort of, well, there was, like Joe Rogan gets this big Spotify deal. And I think that, and I'm sure you sort of, the people that are in this space, content creation space, everybody's looking at that like, wow, like I can't believe that type of thing happens in this space. And, it's like we were at the right place at the right time. And, our show was doing exceptionally well. It's doing even better now. And we had the right team. We had a lot of things in place. And yeah, when we found out that we were going to be partnering, when we got offered the deal, dude, I mean, it's just incredible. It was incredible. It was incredible. I mean, it was incredible.
Presumably, 'cause I've heard of Wondery in the podcast space for forever and ever. I would imagine that Amazon bought out Wondery at some point. Amazon didn't start Wondery, did they?
Yes. No, they didn't. So they were acquired by Amazon. That's right.
And when was that acquisition?
I think I don't want to. I'm sure someone can Google it, but it's like a few years before we ended up partnering with them. So we partnered with them. I guess that would have been 2022. It was like a few years before that. It was a huge acquisition. I think it was like a $300 million deal or something, but some huge deal. And Wondery is just like their big time studio, and so it's just cool. We get to work with them. But yeah, I was like in my house in Texas at the time. And I actually, to be honest, I told Nick, my business, my manager and CEO, Nick Witters. He told me, he's like, bro, like you stay on this podcast thing. I'm telling you, some platform's going to want to do a deal with us. And I didn't see it. I really didn't see it. I said as much to him pretty aggressively that I didn't believe there was a deal coming. Mostly because it just seemed like what we were doing was so sort of niche. It's like, yeah, true crime is a known thing, but like I've been only doing this for a couple of years and there's way bigger people out there. And so I actually totally poo-pooed it and actually famously told Nick like a week before we got offered a deal, which he didn't know about at the time. I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, you're making like a bad call here. Like we are wasting our time making this podcast. All I want to do is stop making it and put it on YouTube. And he, to his credit, remember, like he's my manager. And like, if he says we're going to do this thing and it fails, like it's on him. I can be like, dude, I didn't say that. You said that.
Right.
And he's like, I'm telling you, like there's something here. Just stick it out. And he convinced me to keep doing it. And like literally, it was within a month or something, we were having real talks with Amazon about doing this partnership. And now I like give him a lot of credit because it utterly changed the trajectory of my life and of our company. I mean, that deal like effectively allowed us to go from a handful of people making a YouTube video to a legitimate studio with a slate of shows, with a real team that like is poised to do film and TV. We're doing live tours and books, and it's all possible because of a great team, a great partnership, and a guy in Nick Witters who really, he saw the opportunity and also was prepared to gamble that he was wrong. And he was prepared to look me in the eye and say, I think this is a good idea. You got to go forward. And it could have not been. I mean, it's amazing it happened. So forever grateful. He's the man. Nick's awesome.
Man, congratulations, brother. That's
Thank you, man.
So I've heard Massachusetts, I've heard Pennsylvania, I've heard Texas. Like, why all the moving?
Oh, I don't even know. So I grew up just south of Boston, Massachusetts, in a town called Quincy. It's very blue collar. It's very Irish proud. And then I went to school out in Western Mass, so the University of Massachusetts. I was a fucking idiot. I barely graduated, but was out there.
Was that Amherst?
And then I joined not Amherst College, because that's like super prestigious.
Okay.
It's the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. There's a distinction there. If I went to Amherst, that's like, oh shit, this dude's like an Ivy League guy. That's not me.
Okay.
They call the school I went to ZooMass Slamhurst is what they call the school I went to. It's a big party school. Like I was part of like this riot at the school where like all like 10 or 20,000 people got expelled. Like half the school got expelled. I was in Massachusetts, and then I joined the Navy. The Navy, we lived in San Diego, and then we lived in Virginia Beach. And then after that, after I got out of the military in 2017, me and my wife, I'm so restless. I think like we moved to Pennsylvania, and we wanted to be close to her family who's in New Jersey, but we couldn't afford to live in New Jersey. So we lived right on the border in Pennsylvania where it was cheaper. And then we moved within Pennsylvania. And then we just randomly moved to Texas because I just wanted to go to Austin, Texas. Actually, Nick was out there at the time. And then we moved back to the East Coast. So we've been bouncing all over the place.
And where are you now?
I'm gonna not say where I am because people have been
fair
coming.
enough.
Yeah, dude. But East Coast. Yeah, my house manager off to the side, my security manager just clapped his hands. I usually am like, here's my address. Here's exactly where I live.
My security manager, dude, bless your heart, John. I am so happy for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Well, dude, man.
Yeah, man.
Like, what an honor to get to do this, man. It's rad, and thank you for being the first one to pioneer this this remote model of highly sophisticated production value, and you're on this great screen, perched right where a guest would sit. It's
pretty good,
exciting,
dude. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, I swear, dude, I'm telling you, like I couldn't believe it when I even found out that Kirsty was on earlier. She's like, yeah, so Steve-O was thinking about having you on his show. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. Like Steve-O? And he's like, yeah. Like, bro, this is awesome. Just, it's so cool to get to talk to you. I mean, you're an icon, man. So thank you
so much, man. And, again, congratulations on all your success. I'm just wildly impressed. I love it. And man, I love your content, dude. I love the dark, the mysterious, and it's just people are. You want to think that humanity is good, but God, is it interesting when it's not?
Mostly isn't.
Right. Well, hell yeah, brother. Is there anything else that we can put out there for you got all your social media handles you want to plug
Yeah,
that?
I mean, honestly, I would say for anybody interested in the type of content that we cover, you can just go to ballenstudios.com. We have a slate of shows. The newest show we just launched was Late Nights with Nexpo. He's an amazing OG YouTube storyteller. It just came out. Also, Redacted with Luke Lamana. We got Wartime Stories, Bedtime Stories, Run Fool. Man, we got Mr. Ballen, Medical Mystery. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Check out ballenstudios.com, and I am Mr. Ballen on every social media platform.
There you go. You know what? I haven't been following you on the Instagram. I'm gonna jump on there right now.
I'm excited to see that. You and your like a jillion followers, dude. I'm gonna be looking for it. Be excited to see that.
Dude, I'm gonna do it right now. Everybody else, you do it too. And Mr. Ballen, John Allen, thank you so much for your time, brother. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it, Steve-O.
ballenstudios.com, Mr. Ballen across the board on all the social media platforms.
Hell yeah. Thank you, bro.
Hell yeah, man. Right on, dude. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Ballen. And we can safely say homeboy is ballin'. I mean, he is killing it. And man, he immediately linked me up with his guy, Nick Witters, after the podcast. I got a call with the dude, not next week, the week after. Because I got a pretty crazy week coming up, man. Like, geez. I'm going to do something really life-threatening, okay? And I'm not even saying what it is. I'm just saying that it's very scary and I gotta do it. And my little sweet moon pie, love you. And I love you especially for sticking around to the end of the episode. Man, it's been fun, man. Like, just cruising around. I live in this ass kicker now. It's just this RV. I'm just living in it. So killer. And thank you guys. I love you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, and welcome to a very special wild ride with Steve-O. I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but gosh darn, does my signature look exactly like a wiener shooting stuff out. And I say that because every single copy of my book, which I sell at steveo.com, is personally autographed. And it's filled with crazy stories like you are about to hear right now from me and somebody who's been my hero since we were both 14 years old. So let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Way. Yeah, dude. Let me introduce to you my co-host, Scott Randolph.
What's up, brother?
And
What's up,
for
Scott?
you, coming from off camera, we have Paul Brisky.
Hello.
Yeah,
Paul, how
dude.
you doing?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, dude, this is a big deal right here, man. For anybody who doesn't know Danny Way, man, you've been my hero since I was a little kid, dude. And I mean, when I say little kid, we're both pretty much exactly the same age, right? What's your birthday?
April 15th, 74.
And I'm June 13th, 74. So you're less than 2 months older than me. And when I first found out about you, I would have been 14, watching this epic skateboarding video called Public Domain. And, dude, I mean, I saw it I went to high school in England, so we got everything later, you know, like, I'm guessing
Sure.
that you probably had filmed that, you know, considerably before. But it was just crazy to have this kid who is the same age as me and like just blasting onto the skateboard scene with Powell Peralta, which was the skateboard company that Tony Hawk rode for. Steve Caballero, the Bones Brigade, was like the only game in town. And then
It was a big deal, dude, when we were kids. Yeah.
a really big deal. And living in England too, I went to the American school in London, and I think somebody like pulled a prank on me. They're like, dude, like one of the new students next year is going to be Danny Way.
Oh, no way.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and I was like, what? Oh my God.
When I was younger, it's like, you know, I would travel to different contests, whatever, but I always connected with the kids my age. You know, I think they related to me the most. So like you said, like, you know, whatever. I had like a coalition of little kids that I bonded with everywhere that were kind of, you know, like fans of the fact that I was the same age and doing this, you know, and making it happen. It was pretty rad.
For sure, rad.
Yeah, it's cool. You were like a child star, but in this really rad way. Not like for being an actor or a singer, but for being a badass skateboarder.
And skateboarding was still pretty underground in that era. So
Right.
Yeah.
for
Skateboarding was
sure.
super underground in that era.
Who scouted you for that video? How do you get into a video like that for your first one?
Dude, it all happened so fast, but I was, you know, like I was skating for Vision Skateboards, Vision Streetwear, and I wasn't too stoked on the program. And they left me in Las Vegas at like 13 years old at a contest for real. Like I flew out there, they were supposed to drive me back, and then the contest ended and they disappeared. And like I'm sitting in Vegas with no money, no cell phones back then, and I'm literally stranded. And by the grace of God, this guy comes along. He's like, dude, I see you need help, and you know, I got your back. And I'm like, yeah, what's your name? And he's like, my name's Mike Ternansky. And this dude flew me home from Vegas that I just met. Didn't know at that time he was going to become this very important person in my life. But he got me home. So that point, you know, my mom was a little pissed off about it, whatever. Like, I didn't, you know, of crazy to be that young and end up in a situation like that. But when I was growing up, I had, I was kind of an independent little kid. My mom gave me that kind of freedom, trusting I, would do the right thing or get home with, get involved with the right people where I wouldn't be left in a place like, that far away in Vegas. But anyways, I had the opportunity because 8th Street Skateboards was starting up right around this time. And I was hanging out at Tony Hawk's house quite a bit, skating his new skate compound that he had built out in Fallbrook. And I lived kind of right by Tony. So I just, Bucky was hanging out there, Bucky Lasik. And I started to see this vision like, wow, like maybe I should leave Vision and ride for Pal. But then Mike Ternansky, he flew me home from Las Vegas free of charge, just looking out for me, starts listening to me going, hey, we're starting this new project. And Matt Hensley was my friend I grew up with, and he skated for Vision Skateboards with me, and he left Vision, jumped on 8th Street, this new startup company.
Right. Yeah. Let me jump in here. I know people hate it when I do this, but to put it into perspective, Pal Peralta was the company that Danny was amateur for, and Tony Hawk rode for them. Like all the biggest names, it was the biggest game in town. And then Danny Way, like 13 years old, like all of a sudden decides, I'm gonna leave Pal Peralta. I'm gonna quit. Like the whole world is looking at this like, are you fucking crazy, Danny? You're gonna quit Pal Peralta? He says, yep, I'm gonna quit Pal Peralta. I'm gonna go ride for this company that nobody's ever even heard of before. Hasn't even been launched probably. It's called H Street. They're like, H Street? Like what even is it? And why the fuck would you do that? And then sure enough, it ended up, it seemed like the most reckless move that like career-wise that Danny could have made. It ended up being like the smartest decision ever because at that time, H Street just took over. It was this.
It was, yeah. There was like, I had the chance to get on H Street before I got on Pal because Mike planted those seeds. And when we flew home from Vegas on that flight, he was like, hey, I'm launching this new project with Tony Magnuson. We got Brian Lottie, Mike Carroll, and he was like pitching it. And he was like, we're talking to Matt Hensley. And I'm like, wow, okay, those are my friends. I'd love to be on that program, but the Bones Brigade, dude, you can't nobody's going to shake that vision. So I had that opportunity and, I jumped on Pal because the opportunity opened up for me and I chose to ride for Pal over H Street. But about a year into it, and believe me, dude, I was so blown away that I even ended up on the Bones Brigade. That video part you're talking about, the public domain video part, like Stacy Peralta showed up and filmed me that day with his own camera,
on
he's
film
the guy that
too,
produced,
huh?
On real film. Like he pulled up and filmed Bucky and I that day. And it was like, wow. I remember after the session, I'm like, I didn't even know if I was on Pal yet. Like I went up there kind of like in this transitional period with nobody yet telling me you're on the team or not. So I shoot the video, we skate all day. And then I asked Stacy Peralta afterwards, I'm like, so am I getting on the team? He's like, what do you mean? You're already on, dude. And I'm like, whoa, I've been stressing this whole time. Like, did I skate well enough? Did I pull this off? So it was the biggest dream come true. But after, a year of it, like if you look at the pecking order of people that were in line to, and I understand like they have some, some celebrity pros on the team and a lot of good young kids in the lineup to be able to, start moving up. So like it just wasn't happening, I guess, fast enough where I knew I could, I knew where I was at with my skateboarding and I knew I could take it to another level if somebody got behind me and pushed it further. And so, after a little while, I wasn't getting the things I needed to go to the next level. And Mike came, like there was a contest in Houston, Texas.
That was your first pro contest?
It was my last amateur contest, but it's a shut up and skate. Houston shut up and skate contest. In skate culture, that was like back in the day, that was like, it was like the underground grassroots backyard, but it was a skate park, but backyard, ramp style contest mentality, just chaos, punk rock, partying, the whole deal. But the it was also the one you wanted to win because it had the most street cred. So as an amateur, showing up at that contest was everything to me. And I knew that was a contest I needed to win to really put myself on the map to turn pro.
Right. And then in the first H Street video, Shackle Me Not, they showed you winning that contest.
Yeah. And that was the day I started riding an H Street board because the story goes, I got so desperate to go to that contest in the Bones Brigade. Pal was like, we're going to send you. And the last second they go, no, we're boycotting the contest. And I'm like, boycotting? What the fuck does that mean? You're boycotting it? What are you boycotting? I want to get to this Texas contest. I got to win it. I got to try and win this thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, sorry, we're not going. And I'm just like, dude, Hensley, everybody's getting ready to get on their flight. Ortega, all my friends I grew up to ride for 8th Street now, my hometown friends. So I'm like feeling left out of my skate bubble. Like, these are the friends I skate with every day. Now they're on a program. They're doing everything I want to be doing. So I started to get like pretty jealous, and, you know, it started eating me up. So I called Mike up and I'm like, hey, you know, I know you flew me home from the one event. You didn't ask for anything in return. I appreciate that. But dude, I need help getting to this Houston contest. Like, whatever, dude, front me, like, lend me the, I'm like so desperate, dude. Can you help me get to Texas? And he's like, yeah, we can make it happen, but only if you ride for us, dude.
This was featured in the very first 8th Street video, which was called Shackle Me Not. Okay. When I saw Shackle Me Not, like, my head exploded. Okay. And this was right at the time when I got my first video camera, which I stole from my dad's closet. And I made my very first skateboarding video, which was called I Hate Rain. But what's important about this is that I Hate Rain was the first video made by Team H Road.
What a fucking, that's funny.
My buddies and I called ourselves Team H Road because 8th Street was that fucking cool. Like, we didn't even care. Like, we made T-shirts that said,
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, we made H Road T-shirts. And dude, I was 14 years old riding a Danny Way skateboard, like his pro model. Like, I
Did it
had
say H Street on the skateboard?
Yeah,
You
yeah, for
crossed
sure.
it out and wrote road.
No, dude, that would have been disrespectful.
Yeah.
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 And so that's like how far back Danny and I go. I was riding Danny's board in 1990, right? I graduated high school in 92, went to the University of Miami. I was all flailing around, but I decided I wanted to be this rad, like, stunt guy. And my best plan was to try to be in skateboarding videos. So I go to the skateboard convention and I'm going around all the booths, like ejecting their tape, putting in my tape. And that was like, everybody was just so pissed off until I got to the XYZ booth. And that's the company that Danny Way started with our buddy Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
And I plug in my videotape on their booth, and Tommy's like stoked about it. He's like, dude, is that you? And I'm like, yeah, dude. We start shotgunning beers. Next thing you know, I'm sponsored by XYZ.
Wait, how old were you when that happened?
At that time, that was the first week of 1997. So I was 22.
Okay, so that's like 7 years after that tournament, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like, there's some more skate videos that came out and some more chaos and
Yeah.
stuff, but
Well, because
like,
let's get into that, because you left 8th Street then, right? Like 8th Street kind of like fell apart, and you started Plan B with Mike Ternasky.
I mean, 8th Street was like a prototype project, you know, like the guys, you know, Tony Mag and Mike Ternasky came together, they started it, and it was like, I don't think anyone anticipated what was going to happen. You know, like I know that those guys were pretty genius in how they pulled what they pulled together, but I don't think they realized like how big Hensley was going to be. And I don't think they, you know, I think they sensed that I was going to go somewhere, but I think the synergy of having us at once and us being new young blood and having this new brand when Pal Peralta and Stacy Peralta and the Bones Brigade dominated skateboarding throughout the 80s in a certain way.
And 8th Street took all that away. 8th Street took that all away from Powell, and 8th Street was the only game in town at that point. But then I think what I hear you saying is that now 8th Street, they didn't know how big they were going to get. They didn't know like how big the skaters were going to get, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, if the skaters are going to see more opportunity somewhere else, it's going to get pretty hard to keep them unless you really, you know, respect how big they are.
Yeah, and or just, you know, listen to the guys that are moving the needle for the project and like tailor it so that everyone's happy. You know, I think 8th Street got to a point where there was a lot of like difference of opinion on how it should be or what it should look like or how it should feel or whatever. So at a certain point, instead of like trying to spend so much time correcting certain things, we were just like, you know what, let's just do a Plan B and like start a new project and like just start it right, like do everything, you know, all the things that we learned from 8th Street, let's just do it right this, you know, from the jump and not make those same mistakes and keep it tight, and keep this feeling in the brand that, that was what created H Street, was the synergy of the talent and the personalities and how everyone kind of complimented each other and got along. But, in the Bones Brigade, Stacy was actually a master of this, dude. This is where Stacy Peralta kind of invented this formula, and then Mike Chernansky took it to another level. And then Plan B essentially was, our refined version of H Street.
Is there like beef between the different companies?
Absolutely.
It's like gangs meeting up, gangs in New York shit at a competition.
People ever fight at competitions and stuff?
Danny could, I think Danny could
Not me,
confirm or deny this, but I think it's safe to say that clearly Pal Peralta was just the biggest and the only biggest. And they were successful because Stacy Peralta was a skater. The company Vision that he talked about before was run by a guy who never even skated. That was the problem, is that skate companies were being run by people who weren't skaters. Powell was good because Stacy Peralta knew what was going on. 8th Street was like a skateboarding operation, and Plan B. But by this point, I think enough skaters got big enough that you saw really genuine, rad companies run by skaters, and there were kind of a bunch of them, popping up. So there wasn't going to be any more one company dominated everything anymore. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, in the 80s, there was a coalition, they called it the Big Five, which was Thrasher, Transworld, Pal Peralta, Vision, and NHS, Santa Cruz. And those guys had it was like the UN, and they would come together and go, okay, well, how do we cock block all these young new startup companies and monetize the retail level or the, the distribution model, and, and globally dominate skateboarding? Us as the group, we'll dominate as a team, So there was, those guys kind of butted heads here and there, but, we can't forget about our good buddy Steve Rocco.
I was going to say, then came Rocco.
So I was going to bring in Rocco. So Rocco was also moving the needle at the same time as H Street. But Rocco came in with a more rebellious mentality,
Right.
He was more like, he didn't mind anyone trying to ruffle his feathers, because it just gave him good reason to do some funny stuff back. And in return, he won because it just drawed more attention to World Industries and the Santa Monica Airlines, or, all the brands that he created.
Can you explain who Rocco is?
Yeah, we talked about this with Ryan Sheckler on this show, about how skateboarding, all the money that came into the skateboard industry was sort of contingent on mom approving the purchase of the product. So the skateboard videos up to that point were kind of catered to mom's approval. They didn't show brutal slams. Everything was just kind of made to be cute and okay for mom. And then 8th Street came along and they were like, no, we're all about the skateboarding. But then Rocco came along and he was like, you know what? Skateboarding is fucking criminal. We're out here breaking, we've got this attitude and fuck it, So Rocco wasn't trying to kiss mom's ass anymore, period. He's like, I'm gonna actually bum out mom. We're gonna express skateboarding as what it is. We're gonna take pride in how fucked up it is, how brutal the slams are. We're gonna have little kids fucking vomiting all over the place.
I mean, his mentality was the more he could make the parents hate what he was doing, the more the kids would want it. So,
Yeah.
It's genius.
And he is a genius. Steve Rocco is one of the smartest, most clever, just brand visionaries, marketing guys. So he's done some amazing stuff over the year. I mean,
and he's
the catalyst behind
for
Jackass.
I mean,
really?
I was going to tie it together, but the guy that was moving the needle with Mike Chernansky and Steve Rocco came in, and he started Plan B with us. We started Plan B. So Mike, Rocco, and I were kind of driving this, this initiative to create, because, I left H Street to skate for Blind. I jumped on Blind, which was Steve Rocco's company with Mark Gonzalez and Jason Lee. Yeah, Jason the act, people that don't.
And they called it Blind because they were saying fuck Vision. It's the opposite of Vision skateboards. So they said we're gonna call it Blind.
That's great.
And it was so there was beef.
Totally. And Steve Rocco was head of marketing and team and all that stuff at Vision. And he left Vision to start Santa Monica Airlines and was like, hey, Mark Gonzalez, when you're ready, cruise over. I got, as Steve started to succeed, I think Gonzalez was like, well, I might have, I'm going to go hang out with Rocco because he's got this thing going on.
Right.
So eventually Gons bounced, Vision and joined up and started Blind with Rocco and Jason Lee.
Right.
And I eventually ended up on Blind because that was a contrived move because Mike Ternansky was like, hey, Danny's going to quit H Street because he's not stoked on what we're doing. And Mike kept saying, I'm butting heads with Tony on some things. I don't know the whole story behind it, but supposedly they weren't seeing eye to eye. So Mike was like, let's just meet with Rocco and like, let's figure out how we can do something with him. But Mike realized it was going to take a little while to make all this happen. So he's like, I don't want to lose you. So go ride for Rocco for a little bit. We'll figure this out. And then we'll just make it happen when the time's right. But at least you'll still be in the mix,
Right.
So I jumped on Blind for a while, and then eventually we got the whole Plan B thing going. And Rocco was a big part of Plan B.
Yeah, going back to Scott's question, are there beef between? Is there beef?
Yeah, because I see him at competitions. Like when you're a street and everybody's just kind of standing there while the one guy skates. But like behind the scenes, are you guys like, now fuck you?
Well, yeah, I think the answer to your question about is there beef between skateboard companies? Yes, and not only that, but there's like secret, like top big stars defecting from their companies to go start other companies, and then like nobody knows about it until it actually happens, and there's all this backstabbing and betrayal and like.
What do you mean? Like they start a company while they're still with another company,
Right,
and then as soon as they get their company started, they're like, fuck it.
It's like getting another girlfriend before you break up with the girlfriend you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, the first Plan B ad was 5 of these riders are going to be leaving their current sponsors to start a new company. And we had the list of all the top pros on this ad. So it was like all the companies were going like, oh shit, who's going to be leaving? Like they didn't know. I mean, but if you look at our ad, it's like everybody, Hawk. I mean, you name it. Like, all the top guys in that time were on this list that were going to be potentially leaving their current sponsor to start Plan B. So for like, until the next ad dropped, which is like the next month where we had the team list, the team riders actually, on that ad for about a month, people were tripping like, whoa, who's like, what's happening here? Who's going to be leaving who, like
that's so great.
I mean, what about like fights and stuff? Were there any other physical stuff going down behind the scenes, or was it like at parties when you ran into each other? Look at this guy's face. He's smiling about something.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking skateboarders, like in skateboard culture is pretty fucking cool, man. To be honest, like despite how much, like, hey, I want to fucking win this contest or I want to do better. I think, there's been a couple, I think people that have beefed, but not like you would think. I think for the most part, for how rebellious skateboarding has been over the years and, it being kind of an outcast, industry or whatever, or society, I think for the most part, a lot of respect in, amongst each other, to be honest, so I haven't seen too much to be on that level. It's more been like politics within business culture.
Yeah.
Got it. But that doesn't equal this. It's just more of like, fuck, dude, that guy just one up me with that strategy. Okay, how do we fire back? Cleverness and effectiveness.
It's like anything else. There's more fist fights over pussy. Right? Like, dude, you humped my girl. Fucking bop.
Okay, got it. It's not like a fucking tribalism, like I'm part of this crew, like you're fuck you.
I mean, there is some of that, but it's like, it's business, you know? It's business, and yeah, that's crazy, man. I'd never heard about the ad where it's like, epic. There's this new company, Plan B, and we're going to take, 5 of these...
5 of these top pros are going to be leaving their current sponsors to start a new brand.
Wow.
Whose idea was that?
That sounds like a Rocco idea to me, about Ternansky.
I think maybe Mike and Rocco can try that, but I'll send it to you when we're done with this thing so you can see it. It's
dude, I'm so okay. Now on the topic of ads, there's one that I fucking can like never. There's actually 2 ads I can never forget in skateboarding that just blew my mind. One was, it said the house that Rodney built, and it listed every trick that Rodney Mullen was responsible for inventing, and the font size was so small to fit all those words on one page because he just invented. It was mind-boggling. But then the other ad was for Danny Way. And I think what it'd say, like, Danny Way, part man, part machine, and it listed, like, all the surgeries that you'd had.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, my God, Danny Way's been just the most operated on athlete, like, ever. So we got to ask, like, can you run us through your surgeries?
I have a little bit of a catalog of surgeries I've acquired.
It was that was the ad, right?
Yeah, you guys have the same surgeon.
When I needed like 11 screws in my ankle, Danny brought me to his doctor.
Yeah,
and my shit worked great.
Dude, I got you on the surgery list like a week later, and like normally most people have to wait like a few weeks or a month to get their appointment. It takes a while, you know. But like
that's right.
You can call.
He's a frequent flyer.
Danny's had like cadaver ligaments like sewn in, and then they failed. So then he went back and got like synthetic. He's like.
And you guys have both done the anesthesia challenge. Like that's how you know you're fucking done a lot of surgeries.
I want a rematch, dude. I want a rematch on the anesthesia challenge. I got smoked. Damn.
But yeah, walk us through the surgeries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, they started. I think I had my first surgery at like 15. I shattered my elbow, and it still doesn't straighten all the way. That's as far as I can bend it that way, and then that way it only goes. So that was like the first like, oh shit, I hurt myself, and I don't know if it's ever going to be the same again. And that was kind of like humbling for me for a minute. I'm like, well, I can actually damage my body beyond the point of repair. Mm-hmm. Oh shit, what have I got myself into? So, you know, I had like a pretty good run without, you know, I had a pretty bad back injury or spinal injury when I was 18. That
you surfed into a rock and got fucking paralyzed for 6 months. Is that right?
I had not 100% paralysis, but paralysis I had for over a year. Like I had a hard time moving my arms and moving my limbs, you know.
Right.
I couldn't stand up for very long. I'd get fucking vertigo and dizzy and nauseous.
I remember your brother, dude, fucking Danny had his own video came out in the skateboard industry in like 1999, maybe 1998, and it was called Danny Way Living Legend, right? I had it. In that video, his brother Damon described this injury that Danny had surfing, where he like went under and like hit like his head into a rock, and his brother described it as his vertebrae in his neck were like compressed, right? It was like a vertebrae injury, which literally left him paralyzed, you know. And so like, what are the doctors didn't know what to do, and so Danny goes to like fucking just disappears from the world, off the face of the earth, goes to Hawaii to some like crazy like witch doctor dude, and like nobody hears from, you know, and nobody hears from him. They're thinking, oh my god, Danny, like for him to not have use of his body is the saddest, most tragic fucking thing, and nobody was hearing from him. Then he shows back up like after like 6 months, a year or something, right? Goes to the biggest fucking contest in pro skateboarding, which is the Tampa Pro, and he shows up and wins fucking first place in vert and second place in street.
Wow.
And that's what's so rad about Danny throughout, is that he's a full-on double threat. Like any other pro skateboarder is pretty much a half-pipe skater or a street skater, but Danny's both.
What the fuck happened at the shaman in Hawaii?
You know, he was more of I wouldn't, you know, it's not like some witch doctor per se. He's definitely a different kind of holistic doctor.
More of a warlock.
But at that point I was so desperate because I wasn't getting any help from the Western doctors. You know, I saw some of the best surgeons and orthopedic surgeons and neurosurgeons or whatever in the country that weren't giving me any positive hope. So I was like, I can't just sit here and not do anything. And I wasn't getting any better. So it took about a year and 3 months. But there's a chain of events that happened that led me to the guy that actually like led me out of the woods on this. But it took me going to Hawaii, staying with this guy for a couple months and doing, you know, he's like a kinesiologist, chiropractor, nutritionist, like mental, like a mentor, like, you know, he got me back because I was pretty depressed. I was like at a point of like, fuck this. If it doesn't change, dude, what's the point of being alive kind of mentality? And, you know, that's shallow, but at that age, it was a lot weighing in on me with this. But
how old were you?
So I went to Hawaii.
He said 18.
18. And so I went to Hawaii, worked with this guy, got my head back in the right space where I was like motivated to like keep fighting this. And then he was like, well, you know, you got to go home sometime. And, you know, I can't, you know, take care of you forever. So we've decided I was going to come back to San Diego. And he was like, I got somebody I know there that you should meet and do some follow-up with. It's somebody I used to work with. So he introduced me to one of his friends in San Diego, and I went to him right when I got back from Hawaii. And this guy's like, whoa, you're a pretty fragile case. I don't know if I want to do anything. Like, I don't want to take the responsibility with this. This is pretty serious stuff, you know? So I was like, oh my God, here we go again. I'm back to square one.
Oh, I remember what Damon said. He said Danny dislocated his brain stem from his spinal cord. That
Well,
was
you can't do that or you would die. What I did is I dislocate. What I did is I separated, or I tore the ligaments that hold your atlas vertebrae to your occiput, to the base of your skull. So where your head sits on is like a cradle. Your atlas vertebrae holds, it's a cradle for your skull. That vertebrae was like slid over and sitting on my spinal cord because I tore the ligaments that hold it in place. So it just was sitting there, and no doctor, because there was no broken bones, could tell me, chiropractor could see it was out. It was out of place, like 12 degrees or something. But but the Western doctors were like, there's no broken bones. It'll just heal. And I'm like, there's no healing going on here. And it's like a broken wrist. If you broke your wrist and you didn't put it in a cast and it was displaced, it's going to heal displaced.
Yeah.
So I tore all this soft tissue with that vertebrae sitting on my spinal cord. It healed like that. So like, I wasn't going to get any better. These fucking Western guys are like, dude, it'll heal over time. Just give it a time and blah, blah, blah. Dude, a year and 3 months in, I'm like, dude, I'm fucking ready to lose my mind here. Like, for real. Went to Hawaii. Dude led me back to his boy here. And then he goes, I don't want to touch you, but I know a guy. I don't know him very well, but I've heard about him. His name's Paul Chek. This guy's going to he's going to help you, I think. And I'm like, oh God, here we go again. Another guy. So I go to this Paul Chek guy, desperate again. And Paul, I walk in and he's like, I know, I can see right now what's going on. And I understand it. And he broke down exactly what I just said to you about the vertebrae sitting on my spinal cord. He can unwind it. It's going to take some work. Follow his lead. We'll be good. Dude, it went from literally suicidal. I dropped I was like 140 pounds at this point. I normally weigh 185, so it's like 40 pounds of muscle because I literally couldn't move from my waist up for over a year. Like I lost all of my muscle up top. Anyways, so it was like, I had to rebuild myself. But Paul's like, just trust me. And I'm at this point, I'm just like, dude, how can I trust anyone at this point? But he was, just his energy or whatever. I was like, fuck, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to follow this guy's lead. And dude, he led me out of the trenches on this thing, I still my whole life had to deal with the repercussions of that. Like I'm not completely ever healed from that. Like there's residual and I just consistently work at it to keep going. But like he got me back to a point in 3 months after I met him where I went to Tampa and won the contest and got second in the street one. But that was like from completely bedridden to 3 months later.
Wow. So
pretty, if I didn't go to Hawaii, I wouldn't have found, it's just the chain of events that led me to these people. I don't know because Paul Chek, my whole career now, from that point on, he's my guy.
What sort of stuff did he have you doing for those 3 months?
He went in there and manually mobilized all those vertebrae that were frozen and all healed all out of place and all the soft tissue. He had to break all that tissue up. Oh. And I was working with his chiropractor buddy that does just atlas alignments only. He's an atlas specialist. So I would bounce back from Paul's physical therapy office to this guy, Kenny Shepard, this atlas guru, where he would set my atlas in place. And then, Paul would go and break up all the soft tissue. I'd get it set in place. But by the end of the day, it would slide back out. So I'd go back and get it set again. And that for like a couple months, every day, back and forth from one office to the other. Eventually, my vertebrae started to hold in the right place again.
Did you have health insurance covering all this shit, or was it just crazy bills?
Dude, this is this is in the era where skateboarders weren't making much money. I didn't have, we didn't have managers and a lot, I didn't have my parents driving my career and managing me. I was pretty much on my own at 16, Right. So health insurance, I wish I had it, but I didn't have it. So when this shit went down, it was like every bit of money I had went into me chasing this. And so I got it, extremely broke in this time period too. And didn't know what to do. I was paying cash for everything. Harsh reality.
Health insurance when you're 18 is just drink more beer. Fuck it,
Hey, dude, this was the one time in my life where I was literally shell shocked so much that they were handing me drugs, dude, whatever, they were giving me painkillers. I didn't take, when this happened, I was so scared because of the neurological problems I had that I didn't touch not one painkiller, not one Tylenol, not one Advil. Dude, I was so religious about what I put in my body after that because I was so scared. It was I couldn't even enjoy being, it didn't matter if I took something at that point. I was so, intimidated by all the neurological problems that it didn't even matter if I was numbed on a painkiller. Psychologically, I was in hell. So like it's just like I just didn't even go down that path at all. It was a long road of real reflection, you know, being that like down and out and being crystal clear about it. It's the best way I couldn't have dealt with it in a better way, because if I was numbing myself, I might have took myself out. Who knows?
So you're 18 years old when you have the accident and you're semi-paralyzed. Like, how old are you when you win that Tampa contest, when you just reappear in the world?
20 years old, maybe.
So 2 years out.
It's like a year and a half later. I don't know. I think I was like 18 and a half when that neck thing happened. I think I was around 20. And yeah, it wasn't long. It was, it was literally like a year and a half after that injury. You know, the neck injury was the precursor to getting to the surgeries. Although that was a major injury, it didn't need any surgical repair. It was a different kind of therapeutic or rehabilitation strategy that got me out of that one. But I didn't start having surgery till I was like consistently till I was about 30 years old.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Consistently.
Like I got through my 20s. I got through my 20s pretty unscathed. I was pretty, other than, because I was trained, this is, also the realization, the wake up call I had when I went through that neck injury was like, I have to earn this now, because I had a lot of weakness in my neck and like some irreversible damage still in there, even though I'm functioning. Now, if I don't take care of this, like I'm so vulnerable now. I got to be in best shape I can to deal with, the repercussions of, the mistakes I make riding my skateboard or anything else that I'm doing. So, I started to work really hard through my 20s, to be on a different level, which was not cool in skateboarding yet. I had to like kind of be underground about my training mission. Like, I didn't want people to know like, oh, this guy's like works out. Like he's not a skateboarder, because skateboarders don't work out. Like,
right.
I was like, dude, I just want to skate, and whatever it takes, I'm doing it. So, anyways.
Now, Danny wants to list surgeries, and I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw in there that you got the surfing, the skateboarding, and then you've also got, you're a professional snowboarder, right? And motocross.
What? The big
I wasn't
five?
like racing like top pro motocross stuff, or even, I was into moto. I was getting good at it, and I decided at a certain point, like, is this worth? It was after the neck injury when I started to really weigh out, like, what should I be doing and what shouldn't. Now I know I can get hurt. I didn't realize I was that, like, before the neck injury, I was like, dude, getting hurt's like whatever,
Right.
I didn't know that you can get that hurt,
And he beat Dave Mira in a downhill bicycle competition.
Really?
So to win like $100,000 in the it's borderline creepy how much I know about Danny. But yeah. So what was on that ad? When the ad that listed all of your surgeries?
I mean, I can't even. I'll do my best. I mean, I've had like probably like 8 different surgeries on my left knee. Like there's been 4 ACL reconstructions and a bunch of just minor meniscus or cartilage cleanups and stuff like that. I've had probably roughly around 5 surgeries on my ankle from when I broke it jumping the Great Wall of China. That's cost me a pretty good, that one's just, the deterioration on that one's just going downhill from at this point. But
shoulder,
the elbow, I've had several on. Like I've had several surgeries on the same joints because I've just keep damaging them. But I've had both my shoulders reconstructed, my knees, ankle, elbow, wrist. I mean, pretty much almost every joint in my body's had surgery.
It's unbelievable.
Well, where do you want to go to next? Because I have questions.
Right. Okay. Well, here we go. So we've got like, you turned pro when you were 14. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Turned pro when you were 14.
Street course.
Paralyzed when he was 18. On top of the world again when he was 20. Now, 23 is when I was. Was I 20? Shit, I was 22 years old when I got sponsored by Danny's company, XYZ Clothing. And they were sponsoring me for drinking bong water and lighting myself on fire. Like that was, and I was on the team list, which is so fucking crazy. And they flew me out to San Diego to shoot an ad for XYZ before I even went to clown college. And little did I know that when I'm out there, Danny's pulling together. He's going to set the world record for the highest air ever done. And he did. And he built the first skateboarding mega ramp.
Yeah, how did that happen? Like,
I mean, it was Mike Chernaski's idea, right? Like, it was you and Mike said, "Well, dude, I know a way to do the highest air," because they had always, as soon as they had half pipes and people started going into the air above the ramp, they were measuring it like immediately, and through all of the 1980s, it was just a battle for inches and millimeters. You know, like the highest air was sitting somewhere around like 8 feet, you know, and then it went to 9 feet, but they were always, but it was like, it would only ever like incrementally go up like the tiniest little amount, like hovering around 9 feet, if I'm right. And then Danny just comes and Danny builds this fucking gigantic ramp with a huge roll in and just blows it out of the fucking water. It takes the highest air ever done from 9 feet all the way up to 16 feet. And just to rub it in, he did a fucking kickflip air where you flip the board. He did that 12.5 feet above the ramp. And I'm speaking for Danny here, but what drove him nuts? What drove Danny nuts about all of this was that the 16-foot air didn't get as much attention, not even the 12.5-foot kickflip indie. But what got all the attention was that they were filming from a helicopter, and Danny looks at the helicopter. He's like, "Oh, let me jump out of the helicopter into the ramp." And that was what got the fucking cover of the magazine, not the big air, but Danny jumping out of a helicopter. And the whole world's like, "Oh my God, the guy fucking jumped out of a helicopter and landed in a ramp." And like Danny's like, but the air.
Yeah, like that was extra.
Dude, I wasn't even like, I was like, the heli thing was cool, whatever, you know, but I was so much more proud about breaking the world record. But everyone's like, "Dude, that was cool, but the helicopter shit's on a whole nother level, dude." And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, well, I don't get it.
And then, okay, and then speaking of fucked up injuries, okay, Danny, like, they set up some MTV event, right? So Danny's gonna jump out of the helicopter for this, for MTV. But
it's a music festival.
Yeah, and so while he's trying it, he fucking jumps out, but he doesn't get it, and he completely dislocates his shoulder, fucking shoulders out. And Danny says,
Ugh.
Yeah.
I got a gnarly scar from that one. That was a gnarly surgery.
So the shoulder's out, and what did you pop it back in? And he says, "Dude, I got to get back up in that fucking helicopter and jump out real quick before this fucking gets tight and sore." So he goes up and he jumps out of the helicopter with a dislocated shoulder and fucking makes it.
Wow.
You want to explain that?
In these situations, it's like, you've already I've already blew out my shoulder. What am I going to sit there and be like, "Oh, this sucks watching," or what if I could have tried it? What if I made it? I knew it wasn't that complicated. I just need to get up there and do it again and get it over with. And it's a lot easier going into a surgery or whatever, knowing you at least got the goal that you accomplished, like under your belt, you know, like,
That's cool.
I could justify the next Monday morning going in the surgery room. Like, well, thank God I got the helicopter thing done, but rolling in there with a blown shoulder with no clip, I'm doing it. Like, that would have
Okay.
Yeah.
So now here's another example. When the fucking when at the X Games, right? And this would have been the X Games in 2008. Danny goes on this. Now it's like the real mega. Danny goes up and fucking as he comes back down, he clips his
It topples
feet.
front over.
Yeah, he clips his feet on the edge of the ramp and just takes the most fucking brutal slam ever.
And you were knocked unconscious on that one, right?
No, I had the wind knocked out of me, but I didn't go unconscious on that. I was rattled.
It was.
I wanted to be unconscious, but
I would have, yeah.
Up to that point, it was the most brutal slam that we had ever seen at the X Games. And Danny goes back up, and they're like, "You gotta go to the hospital." He says, "Fuck that, I'm going back up and doing it again." He goes back up and makes the run. Did you get gold?
I got second place, you know, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
dude,
much respect to Bob Burnquist, of course, for taking that. But like, if there's one event where I'm like, dude, I don't know about that one.
I mean,
did you break anything during that?
I broke my foot.
Did they try to give you a wheelchair?
They tried to carry me off the ramp, which I would, you know, like I was just.
So with the broken foot, you're like, "I'm fucking going again."
Yeah. And okay, here's another one. Okay. Danny goes to, like, and this is the biggest deal ever. Like, Danny jumped over the Great Wall of China, right? Like, no, like the relations between America and China have never been really that great. You know, it was a big deal to get permission from China to go over there and jump a skateboard over the wall.
What year?
2005, yeah?
Yeah, I think it was 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he goes over there on the fucking practice run. You broke your ankle or your foot?
That was my ankle.
Yeah, so he broke his fucking ankle, like doing a practice run.
The day before.
Day before or day of?
Day before. Like, I wasn't supposed to take any practice run, but I could smell, like, I'm like, dude, they didn't translate the
Right.
dimensions correctly from metric to, or from standard to metric, language barrier. Some things came out wrong on the ramp, and I was like visually like, whoa, I can already tell like some shit's not going to feel exactly how it normally does. So I was adamant about taking a test run before, the day before. The government was like, you better not, like it's forbidden because somebody's going to get a photo or a video. And I was like, I'm going to fucking die if this in front of everybody. I'm fucking figure it out right now.
Right.
So I took the test run right before dark. And just like I thought, there wasn't enough roll in.
Right.
I came up short and landed on the deck, which was another flaw because most of the decks on these landing ramps, I always build them half the angle from like 45 to vertical.
So
like I find like right the sweet spot.
Yeah.
They put a flat deck with a sharp edge on it. Normally I build like a roller over the edge. So if I did come up short, I could at least like get a little forgiveness going in. But dude, it was like a square edge like this. And I was like a foot short, dude, a foot. Like I could see the edge and I'm like, do I go head first and try and swan dive this thing? Or do I take it? And I was like, dude, if I come up short this way, I'm going to die. And this is all happening in real time, like milliseconds of thoughts. Like, okay, which way do I roll with this? And so instinctually, I put my feet out first and I landed on that edge of that deck and cartwheeled down the thing and fractured my ankle the night before.
Right.
At what point?
So the next day, with the fucking broken ankle, he comes back and jumps over the fucking Great Wall of China, like, and then that wasn't even good enough. He goes back up and does a backside 360 air over the Great Wall of China.
I did 5 360s in a row. If I didn't break my ankle, I would have sessioned that. I was like, my goal was like to get like film a segment, like get a bunch of tricks on video over the Great Wall and make it its own thing. That was my fantasy. I didn't realize I was going to break my ankle.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, there are how many people have their name in gold on the Great Wall of China? Like 5?
Yeah, something like that. I'm the only American though.
Yeah,
Who
there's
else?
5 people in the world.
I don't know, dude.
Like
I don't know who they are, but
Fucking Genghis Khan, Danny Way.
I should do a little. Yeah, it's a funny one. I should do a little research on that, but I never really.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't need these things for that.
Danny's not a big like self patter on the backer.
Yeah, Jesus, dude.
Right,
I'm
dude.
just like, where's the next opportunity to jump the next thing? Which is I'm in real time right now. I've got something on my plate that's. I was when we talked a couple of days ago, Steve. I was out in El Centro looking at the border, the Trump wall.
Yeah, Danny calls me up the other day, and I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I just came back from like getting hit in the balls, like, and he's like, oh, I'm getting ready to jump over a fucking border wall. I'm like, dude, we're old, we're old and we're still doing this shit,
Dude, who would have thought? I mean, like when I was a kid, like. The guys that were 30 skating, we were like, look at this old man trying to skate, dude. And I'm looking at Bucky at 47 or whatever, just ripping and inventing new tricks. It's a different era, dude. It's like, I didn't really thought we would get to this point. And like, I'm sure like we were living by day when we were younger. Like it wasn't like a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan. It was like a 24-hour plan.
For sure. And when we were kids, there was no such thing as like a rock star over 30 or an athlete over 30, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the fucking Rolling Stones like were 40. I don't know, but that was fucked up.
I mean, it definitely, things have evolved in this era. Like you can, it's pretty cool that we're able to still, you get kicked in the balls and me go, try and make these wall jumps happen.
I mean, since you brought it up, like, what's the story with the Trump border wall? Like, what's the...
I mean, I'm not like a politic guy, so I hope people don't, I'm
That's
actually
what I was
neutral in
worried about.
politics. It's shock value. It's like, okay, there's controversy over the wall. There's controversy over all the elections right now. And you would probably understand this more than anyone from a media standpoint. There's other things that, that would be nice to shine light on, like, the border, politics separate people. The border separates people based on politics, but the people are, my friend that races trophy trucks, who's Mexican, is the one that got us the permission on the Mexico side. So we were both going to jump it. He's going to jump it in his trophy truck. I'm going to jump it on my skateboard. But the idea is like, it's a Mexican and an American jumping it. It's like, we're all good, dude. The politics separate us, not people to people. We love each other. It's just no separation.
I like that.
So what, you're going to do the same thing like you did in the Great Wall of China?
Yeah, this is a little different. It's a little different style because of what the wall is. It's just a different type of wall. It's like 40 feet tall.
To me, it would be funnier if like there wasn't a wall, because isn't there like not a wall? Or
yeah,
like,
is there a wall, or did they build a wall, or
It's
what's
like a barricade on the ground?
Dude, this wall's like 40 feet tall with like barbed wire, like. Dude, it's a gnarly.
Is it new?
It's a gnarly stunt.
I feel like that gives more credit than is deserved, though, because I don't think Trump's built shit, right? That's something that's just always been there, huh?
He's built some stuff, and they started building it in like San Ysidro, right? But the border between Imperial Beach and San Diego. But we went out east a little bit because we know people that own private property out there. I'm working with like the head of the Border Patrol, and I've been working with the mayor of Imperial Beach, and like we've been trying to hone our team to get this done. But it's going to be a lot easier to do on private property than federal property. So I found these locations that we know people that own these properties, but they're east a little bit. But the wall there is pre-existing, although it's still 35 feet tall and 5 feet of barbed wire on the top of it. I don't know where the fuck Trump thinks he needs to build a different wall. This wall's serious, dude. Like, it's no joke. I'm like looking at this thing like, what? Why would you need to replace this wall?
So funny.
If anything, get rid of it altogether. But
when's the last time you had a surgery?
It's been a little bit.
When we were there,
like probably 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, was that the last anesthesia challenge?
Yeah.
That was my last. How long?
So
ago
what was
2
that?
years,
Can we
3
explain
years?
that for people? You guys each got anesthesia and tried to see who could last longer or something?
Correct. Yeah, it's the anesthesia challenge is when they put you under, you fight it, and so you see who can fight it for the longest and stay awake. And it seems that I'm more of a drug addict in my history because I have like a little built-in tolerance, maybe more, because I lasted marginally longer.
Yeah, because we've done it a couple times. We've done it twice, but the second time we were going to do it, we brought down a bunch of dildos and we brought down like tattoo guns, and like we all went into the surgery room. And then once we pulled out the dildos, they were like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Well, they're like, we're gonna intubate him with a dildo.
Where did you do this one at?
It was when I went to get the surgery, when I went to get the hardware out of my ankle.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so
we were gonna do I wish I would have known. We could have had a rematch.
Yeah.
The Anesthesia Challenge is a pretty awesome event, dude.
I know,
that's a
dude.
Pretty good.
We got to get you guys side by side, dude.
That was where I came up with the idea to get anesthesia while I was riding a bicycle, and we fucking went down the rabbit hole on that whole idea.
Dude, if you could put like a little sensor in the pillow, so when your head taps, it like sends up an alarm and lights. Like, ding! All right, he's done.
He's out.
Like,
Just hold your head up.
Set it up right. Two people laying next to each other, like holding their head up. Like, I got this.
I love how that's probably the only thing you could beat Danny Way at, Steve. Something drug related.
Right. Yeah.
Steve's stunt game is ridiculous. So that's really, I mean, I've always, when I first seen this guy, I was like, this guy's going to be a world-class stuntman. Like, and I saw the, my own little vision in my mind was like, this guy's going to bring rock stars into stuntmen, to the stunt thing, like there isn't really like, other than Evel Knievel, which, he's obviously known for what he did, motorcycles and, whatever, his rocket jump over this.
Yeah.
river thing.
Stuntmen were anonymous.
Stuntmen have always been anonymous. So I saw like Steve-O was like, whoa, this guy's going to be like the first like mainstream celebrity stuntman.
Were you at the trade show when Tommy met Steve?
Nah, that was just Tommy. That one was in Orlando.
Was the Sexpo in Orlando?
Yeah,
Surf
Surf
Expo.
Expo. Yep.
And then did Tommy come back and show you this guy's video? I'm like, dude, we just picked this guy up.
Immediately, dude. He's like, and Tommy's got a gift for like, finding things that are like special, like talent, or just he's got a knack for like, finding.
If Tommy makes an intro, the guy's special. That's
Dude, when Tommy says like, dude, this guy's, like I understand Tommy's mentality so well that like when I saw the light in his eyes, like, dude, I met this guy and I think he's going to bring a lot to the table and he's all going to let's fly him out here. And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's get him out here.
And
I
how
just heard
long
the story
before Jackass is this? This is like,
That was it was January '97, and I went to clown college in the summer of '97. So yeah, like would have been like May. Do you remember when it was that you did that jump out of the helicopter 16-foot air thing?
September 1997.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. Then it was more than a couple weeks after I was there.
Oh wait, it was August.
Okay. Same summer. But on the issue of Trans World Skateboarding that had Danny jumping out of the helicopter on the cover, like had an XYZ ad with me blowing a fireball in the
in New Mexico.
Yeah. That had me and Simonetti doing 50-50 fireball.
That's cool. Do you still
When you
have
were in
that?
the like white suit,
Yeah.
unisuit. It was insane.
The motorcycle
You got
suit.
that article?
I'm sure.
Fuck yeah.
It's the same photo that there's all the posters of.
Okay.
So-
Danny, do you have a favorite photo out of all the years?
I don't know.
Oh, dude, they like the fucking.
There's some cool ones.
Yeah, of course there are.
I mean, dude, Danny, like went. Okay, so Danny built that one. He did the 16-foot air, and what that was just a big roll in with like a humongous quarter pipe, basically. But then Danny said, "All right, now I've set the record for the highest air ever done." But what I want to do is set the record for the longest air ever done. So that he built the mega ramp as we know it now with the huge roll in and the jump
Like Elliot's
kicker,
house.
like Elliot's house. And what Danny did was he didn't just set both records. He did them back to back. Right? He did the longest air ever done, like straight into the highest air ever done in one run.
oh shit.
And the longest air ever done, he set the record. He did a backside 360 air longer than anybody had ever done.
Was that premeditated, or were you like after you did that one, you're like, no, fuck, I'm gonna do the next one?
No, I think I realized that at a certain point, I was like, I think I could probably break both records in one run because, by default, the quarter pipe after the jump was like, essentially like, what am I going to do to slow down without, like, it became like a realization that like, I have a lot of speed and it's hard to get this kind of speed. It takes a lot of money to build roll-ins to get this speed. If I'm going to build a quarter pipe with a roll-in, it's good. So I realized I got to do something with this speed. What can I build now? And when I put the quarter pipe there, I realized like, okay, this is the kind of speed I need to break the world, to do the highest air. But yeah, it was like a goal I had was like break 2 world records in one run. It was part of the pitch I had to throw at DC to like get them to help me fund the thing,
Sick.
Oh, dude. So what was that record? It was a 60-foot backside 360 air landed and then 75-foot backside 360 air into what was like a 24-foot high air.
I think it was like 23.5.
23.5.
Yeah, close enough.
That's amazing.
So the record, his own record, went from 16 feet high to 23.5 feet high, but having just done a 75-foot long.
Do you still have the record?
Yeah, I broke the high air record. I broke both of those records since, the distance one is like 79 feet now, and then the high air one's 25 and a half feet now.
And you hold both of those?
Yeah.
What have you broken more, records or bones?
I guess more ligaments than bones.
Ligaments,
yeah. I've broken some bones, but mostly torn ligaments.
Oh, okay.
Mostly, but I got a few records in there in the midst
Killer.
of breaking some bones and tearing ligaments for sure.
Have you accomplished all your goals, or do you still have a couple that you're like just itching to do and pull the trigger on?
Oh, my brain is always trying to calculate something. And, part of part of the excitement of doing this stuff is the chase to achieve it. So it's like, I always, you know, even though it might be unachievable, I'm always convinced myself it is achievable. And, you know, as long as you relentlessly put in the work to keep trying to achieve, then part of the excitement's there, even though you haven't accomplished it yet, you know? So
there was another one that was going on in Vegas with like the rooftops to one rooftop to the next. And that got,
one, the rooftop transfer at the Hard Rock.
Yeah. That got shut down by the Hard Rock.
The Hard Rock one fell apart because of the weight load on the the ramp I needed to build with the wind load, you know, because these are tall towers and they're going to put it on the roof of a building. They got to strap that tower down, and Vegas gets some pretty heavy winds. So basically they couldn't calculate. All they knew that the weight of the structure was already pushing the load limit, but then adding the wind, they were like, dude, we can't take a risk. So the last second I had everything queued up to jump from building to building at Vegas, or at the Hard Rock Vegas. And they pulled the plug on me, which would have been my coolest stunt, because I was going to flat ground street ollie it, because it's like a step down. So I wasn't going to have a jump. I was just going to hit it and flat ground ollie down like 12 stories.
Fuck yeah. And I think the answer to your question, Scott, is no, Danny hasn't done everything that he wants to do. And that the qualifier for that answer is that if at any point you're not scheming to do something new, then you might as well not be alive anymore.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in nature, if you're not growing, you're dying. Right?
True.
So
you got to keep progressing, man.
Stay ripe or you'll go rotten.
Yeah, you want to stay alive, dude. You want to stay alive.
Let's go back, though, to when my initiation with meeting Steve-O.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
I mean, dude, this one, I know it's going to be a part of the main channel video, because I saw the footage in the Pappas Brothers documentary. They actually have me doing it there. So we'll pull that footage out of there. I don't think we need to have too much overlap. But, dude, I'll tell you, the first time I ever wore the cheetah print bikini was when we went out there to hug sharks. And the idea to hug sharks was 100% Danny Ways. He got me on the phone. He said, dude, Steve-O, I got an idea. It's called shark hugging. We're going to catch a blue shark, and when it's on the line, we're going to reel it up to the boat, and you jump in the water and fucking hug it while it's on the line. And in my mind, I thought, okay, like by the same principle that like a compass in geometry, you know, you can make the circle. If the length of that fishing line is only so far, then the head of that blue shark won't be able to. So if I come from behind, it's safe. But dude, that was a fucking awful idea. And blue sharks are so pissed. So we went and did it.
Blue sharks are so pissed.
They're so pissed. They're the fucking angriest shark, dude. Like blues and bulls have like more testosterone than elephants, I think. And so we went and did it with nurse sharks, and that was where my first time swimming with a shark, and I managed to get bitten. By a nurse shark, which like you have to be an extraordinary imbecile to get bitten by a nurse shark.
Yeah.
So, but when Tommy told you about Steve, how long did it take for you to actually meet him? Like, where did you guys first meet?
It was May or June. I want to say June. Yeah, June of '97. It was when we first met.
Wasn't long after the Surf Expo. I think Tommy was like a couple weeks or something. Like Tommy got you out. Like he was. I don't know how long it was.
It was a few months. But as soon as I met Danny, I think that there were some other guys on the team too, like the XYZ team. Danny was on board. Tommy was on board. But the idea that this fucking asshole who sets himself on fire is on the team list, he's not even a skater, was kind of offensive to some of the other team guys. And so when they flew me out to San Diego, it was like, all right, I'm going to meet everybody. And this guys are kind of looking at me like fucking sideways a little bit, you know, like, oh, like what the fuck?
They're like, so what are you doing? You're just like smashing beer bottles on your head.
Right. And everybody was hanging out fucking, in Danny's living room fucking doing bong hits. And
it was at Sean. It was my friend's house, by the way.
Oh, okay.
my house was a little bit more controlled environment, but that scene was like, dude, just a couch of people doing bong hits all day long. Always.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But everybody's around. It was like, a bunch of guys on the team, and it was like fucking like I grabbed the bong and fucking just not knock it back. I drink all of the bong water, I put it down empty, and like then everyone's like, all right, we get it. Like that kind of I think that won everybody over a little bit.
Dude, Steve-O came in and like was like, hey, what's up, Steve, and then like, oh, can I get a bong hit? Like, oh yeah, here. And this wasn't just a normal bong hit. These guys were smoking mall hits all day with tobacco in there. So like the water was pretty, it was pretty murky with just like, nicotine. Like
I think
they were using Marlboros and shit back then, dude. So like I'm sure there was a bunch of chemicals and bullshit in that water. And that bong wasn't clean, dude. It was so dirty. Steve comes in, sits down, asks for a bong hit, and we're like, sure, pack him a mall hit. Rips the thing, holds it in for a second, then chugs the fucking bong water, and then blows out the hit. And we were just like, what? Dude, no way. 'Cause he didn't claim anything. He didn't promote this. He just sat down and did it. And like, whoa, dude, who's this guy? This is crazy. And then I think it was like the next day, dude, he was doing, gainers, fireball gainers off the trussels with handcuffs on into the lagoon.
It was the handcuffed fire breathing gainer flip off the bridge was my first XYZ ad. And that's what we shot on that trip.
That's sick.
I don't know if I ever saw that one.
Handcuffed.
Yeah, handcuffed. And the cops came. So we lit the whole fire. The top of the bridge was like train tracks, and it was like all wood. And like I needed a good amount of fire to set myself on fire to do the fire breathing flip. And so the cops saw this fire on the fucking bridge, and they come down, and they're like, oh, fucking. So like the XYZ clothing receptionist, they had like this hot chick, and they took the tape and like stuffed it in her bra, and we're like, oh, we don't know, dude. What fuck? We came here to film it, and we forgot the tape. Yeah.
How many times before that have you drinking bong water at parties? Was that like a weekly thing, or is that like
it wasn't like super rare, but that was a special occasion kind of trick.
Did you know you're gonna do that before, or were you like, fuck, I gotta do something?
Yeah, I don't think I knew I was gonna do that before, but it was a big deal for me to meet Danny, dude. Like it's like Danny from like he was my childhood hero, like being the same age, and like he was a street skater. Like you cannot understate the importance of what you brought to skateboarding by having that vision to set the highest air and to push it further to do the longest and the highest. Like, and then from when you did that and set those records, then the following year, it was June of 2003 that you set those records on the first true mega. Then the next year, they brought the mega ramp to the X Games, which was in LA. And like you're on the fucking mega ramp at the Staples Center, like while I'm getting dragged out of the Staples Center by fucking security because I'm all fucking cockeyed, drunk, fucking pissing on everything.
We were on a good one.
Were you invited there, or like why were you there?
I can't remember. I think I was invited. I feel like maybe I was going to present something or other, but I was just such a fucking drunken pile of shit that they dragged me out.
What year was that? 2000?
I think it was 2004.
Okay.
So you were already famous.
And maybe it was 2005. I don't know. But like pretty quick that they got the mega ramp into the X Games, like after you built the first one.
Yeah. I mean, I pitched, that was 2 point. I mean, there was a bigger picture vision along the whole way. Like I'm personally not like could really give a fuck about world records, like it's cool to know you built something and you went, you pushed the limits of possibility and all that. That's like what intrigues me the most. But to sell these things, to get the money and to like get people to, I have to like throw those little pieces in there because it's like, that's marketable and that's something, it tells a story. So that being said, I had to kind of package it that way. But the bigger goal was like, I have something here I know that can be potentially a competitive event platform. And if I can just prove all this, which was the DC video, then I could go to ESPN and go, proof of concept is here. Look at the response,
Dude,
which
fucking epic.
Worked out great, and that's essentially how Big Air started at X Games.
Right. And now there's a whole new generation of mega ramp skaters who have come up. Like how many guys... Obviously, Elliott Sloan is at the top of the heap, but like, how many guys would you say are like really on top of the mega ramp right now?
I mean, it's like because there's not really any permanent. I mean, Bob's got one. Elliot's got the mini mega, which is about like half the size, you know, like, which is great for practice and training. But like they're not that accessible. So it's kind of an elite group of guys that have to have like, you got to be homies with Bob. You got to be homies with Elliot. It's not like anyone can get in this group. So it's like, you know, it's a little, it's a little bit exclusive on that level, but you know, the guys do penetrate the bubble and get in there and get in with Bob and get in with Elliot. And once that happens, you're home free. But getting to that point, so, you know, I don't know what it takes because I haven't been at that level while this is all unfolding. I was able to get in ahead of it and start the thing and not have to worry about that part of it. But there is a solid group of guys that are doing it. You know what I mean? If you look at like Clay Kreiner, he's fucking nuts. You know, look at what Mitchie's doing, like did the 1260 or whatever. And, you know, Trey Wood, like there's a bunch of young guys that are ripping. Obviously Tom Sharr can skate that thing pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyways, there is a new generation of guys that are ripping it, you know, but it's a small group.
I mean, how many dudes in the world do the mega? Like, could you say it's under 50?
I mean, maybe close to that all inclusive, but there's like probably 10 guys that can, you know, really like move the needle for it, you know, like that are in the, like, that can compete for, you know, winning an event.
You guys all part of a Facebook group that you guys chat on?
Yeah, we all have like little, you know, we have like little pins we all wear when we're skating.
Little mega
matching tattoos.
So you told me the other day that you were that you got a new video part that you're putting out. Like
yeah.
How long have you been working on that?
I mean, like a few years. I just been lightly chipping away at it, just because I have this ramp in Hawaii. It's a mega ramp,
Sure.
but it's not like one. It's not like a jump. It's not the typical version. It's a new version I built to be able to allow more like technical vert skating possibilities, like more street-minded stuff, street skating influence stuff. So it's been so hard to document skateboarding over there because of just the weather, and then just getting people out there and the time it takes. And you know, I just don't have somebody on deck to basically go, let's go film right now. And when I'm out there, it's so hard to get a production going there. So every trick that I filmed there, it has been so involved to like fly somebody out for 5 days before they want to go back home. Just people in the, like, it's so like in the wild there that there's just like mosquitoes and just, you know, if you're hanging out filming, dude, you got to like be laced up with so much sunscreen and mosquito spray. And it's just not a pleasant, it's a gnarly environment to film skateboarding.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I've, you know, over the few years, I've chipped away at enough footage, I think, now to put out a video part. If I had this ramp around the corner, it would be a lot more lucrative as far as content goes. But just the way it is like, I didn't realize it when I built it that it was going to be like this, but it is. So anyways, the culmination is I finally have a video part. I collabed with Metallica.
Nice.
Jesus, dude.
So I got a Metallica video or song, and it's, you know, I dealt directly with, you know, Metallica myself to get the permission. And so I'm pretty hyped on that because I've pirated their stuff when I was younger.
Sure, the Plan B Revolution video. With the
we just ripped off their songs. We're fans. Like, we're like, they can't hate on this. Funny though, because Colin McKay ends up becoming managed by Mark Ryder, who's our Metallica's manager. Colin ends up getting managed by Mark, you know, back, you know, maybe in the mid 2000s or something. And so they start, you know, having the conversation, you know, and Colin's like, hey, check this out. He shows them Revolution. And they're like, dude, we love this shit.
Yeah, that was
we didn't
the
have the rights.
Horsemen.
But there was no YouTube back then. You didn't need to get the clearance and stuff, you know? So they were all about it. So they know that Colin and I've used Metallica in the DC video. I used Orion, but I did license that correctly.
Right.
But they respect that I've got a little bit of a theme going with the video parts. So Colin has a little section in this Hawaii video too. So it's kind of, it's like a 2.0 Revolution.
Nice, dude. Oh, did you put on the Hesher fucking mullet wigs?
We didn't do the wigs, dude. We didn't go that far, but there's a little section where Colin's like, you'll see. It's got a little
box.
Yeah.
That shit was classic,
head bob
man.
guitar, playing air guitar on the skateboard in the middle of on the ramp in Hawaii. But
dude, I love it, man. We've been trying to come up with a plan for a Hawaii trip for some time now, man. And the idea was like, let's go to Kauai to Danny's compound. Let's swim with sharks with Ocean Ramsey.
You got the hookup with helicopters in Hawaii?
I got hookups for pretty much everything in Kauai. Yeah.
Hell
It's a
yeah.
good community. There's a lot of there's a lot of people that have good resources, and everyone's pretty, helpful. So it's easy to get things going. So if you guys did want to make that happen, of course, I'm about ready to I'm in the process of selling my home right now to be able to move over there to really hone because the ramp over there gets so overgrown, and it's just I'll disappear for a few months and show up, and I can barely even see the ramp, and it takes me 2 weeks to dig it out of all of the foliage that grows over it, and getting it all skatable again. So I'm just ready just to be there and to manage it day to day and start building some new stuff. But only way I'm going to do it is if I'm over there. So anyways, I'm ready to make a leap over there for good, permanently.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'll be in California a bit, but I'm just saying soon I'll be there full time, enough where you guys should come over and I'll have things dial in.
Yeah,
Dude,
fuck
nice.
yeah, dude.
Cool,
I'm down.
man.
I'd love to.
I wanted to it occurs to me that the plan B is just so big now. You got Sheckler, you got Tori Pudwill, PJ Ladd.
No, Tori left.
Oh, Tori left?
He's not
Right.
no different than P-Rod. We're all friends, dude. I'm
Right.
proud of these guys for taking and doing exactly what I did. I started my own
Right.
company that Tori started Thank You with day one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and
dude.
P-Rod started Primitive. So all I do is pat these guys on the back and say, rad, dude, I'm glad you guys are maturing and doing this stuff.
Hell yeah.
Rad.
Is there a more dominating street skating part than Tori Pudwill's part at the end of the True video?
Dude, Tori's one of the most badass street skaters of all time. He's one of my favorites for sure.
Is anything ever
that
going
part
to
is-
touch that?
I don't, opinion. Everyone's got their opinion on everything. I'm with you. I'm a huge fan of Tori's work, and
Right.
especially that.
It's a different style. I mean,
but-
I'll give it to Nija. His Till Death part is gnarlier. It's the gnarliest. But as far as just technical fucking,
Yeah, no,
Tori.
freaky
Yeah.
tricks, man.
I wonder
super
if
creative.
I wonder if that part's gonna haunt Tori forever, because it's fuck, how am I gonna follow that up?
I mean, I see him dropping clips in recent time, and I'm like, wow, dude, this guy's still got it so
Good,
well.
good, which is good
And
because
so-
he had a back injury that was concerning.
Yeah,
But in
he's
any
an
case,
anomaly talent.
right? I think we've digressed at that point, and fuck it, dude. I would love to go to Hawaii and fuck around there. And dude, as always, man, I've always said it, dude. I know it sounds kooky, but you've always been a hero to me, dude, and that just remains the case, dude. So thank you for doing this
Hey.
with us.
I love you to death, Steven. To be honest, I'm a fan of you, and I'm very proud of you, dude. To see the evolution of what you've done with your career, and what you've done with yourself, and you've experienced everything to the fullest. You've had to be the stunt dummy for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
But to be able to rebound from that and to be check this out. This is, if you're going to do it, you can never compete with this. So why even try? It's been done.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of you, dude, to see how well you've done with your life, dude, and the opportunities that you were given. And that's all, when I first met you, that's I saw the passion in you. I saw the dream. I saw it all. I knew you had the wiring to do this, So it's pretty rad when you see your friends accomplish what they were cut out, what they were made to do, what their purpose is, on this planet is for. And I think you have done a good job of entertaining people, pushing the needle on making, what's comfortable and what's not, what's life-threatening and what's not.
Yeah.
You walked the edge of the cliff on all of it so fine, dude, and so hard that it's pretty rad to be your friend, dude.
Dude, that means the world to me, Danny, dude. It's been fucking rad just being bros for as long as we have, dude. There's so many things I can think of that we didn't even bring up, just so many rad experiences, dude. And I just love you back, dude. Thank you so much, Danny.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, dude, what can I say? Danny Way is a legend and a hero, and I'd really love it if you would shoot some positive feedback his way, man. Whether you were a fan before or not, just post away, tag him, let him know you enjoyed that. And I gotta ask you this. Are you subscribed to this podcast? I mean, it'd be a crying shame if you weren't. But yeah, dude, get subscribed, man. Buy one of these Signature dicks. Oh, yeah, it's the old dickograph. Dude, the hustle's real. I can't believe I'm doing all of this with the condition that I'm in. And, you know, it's just work, man. It's what I do. Yeah, dude. Thank you, guys. Hey everybody, and welcome to an enlightening wild ride with Steve-O. Anybody who is a regular listener of this podcast knows how big of a deal this episode is. It is the author of the books that I rave about constantly called Conversations with God. And I call Neil Donald Walsh my life coach because from his books I have developed my understanding of life and the universe. I'm telling you, this is my favorite guest. I was dying to get him. So, get ready and let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, my life coach, Neil Donald Walsh. I have spoken so often about how much your books, Conversation with God, have helped me. The most traumatic thing that ever I went through. My mom suffered an aneurysm, and she survived it, but she came out heinously physically and mentally disabled, and she had bed sores. I developed a real anger towards God, and by changing my perspective to that, all of a sudden, God didn't allow that to happen to my mom. There's no separation there. That was God. God, my mom is God, and so that that helped a lot. It really, really did. It's still, you know, I would echo what you said. I don't understand it. I don't like it, but I think I view it more as natural law of cause and effect. Like if you know, my mom had alcoholism. She smoked for many years, and I can understand that
consequences.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in the existence of the human soul?
Yes.
Do you believe in the existence of this entity or this essence that we call God?
Yes.
Steve, what in your awareness is the relationship between the soul and God?
They are one and the same. That I mean, God in the absolute is pure love. It's one thing, but being only one thing, it cannot have experience. So God in the absolute divides itself into, you know, many different things, which creates the realm of the relative. So, but all things are God.
So let me ask you a question. Can God, as you understand God to be victimized in any way? That is, can anything happen to God that God does not want to have happen?
No.
If the soul is one with God, can anything happen to the soul that the soul does not want to have happen? Can the soul be victimized in any way?
No.
Then why would your mother's soul choose to experience what she experienced the last 5 years of her life?
That's a tough one. I don't know.
I know, but if you thought you knew, what would your answer be?
If I thought I knew, I mean, it feels like a stretch, but the journey that I went on from being so traumatized by everything that happened, and then the shift in the perspective, and I mean, I don't know. There's something. There's something about my journey in working through that and overcoming it that I can see has value.
Steve, do you think at the soul level your mother might have known that? That her situation and the condition in which she found herself would have an impact and an effect on you that would change your life for the better? I want you to consider the possibility then that your mother at the level of soul was not unaware or ignorant of the fact that I've just described, and that her last 5 years and what she went through at a physical level was her final act of love for you.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's a tough one, but I'll take it.
Does it have anything to do with like soul contracts?
Precisely.
I mean, that's her acting out her contract.
Knowing that what I'm going to move through now will bring enormous benefit ultimately to my son, and will open him to an awareness of so many different things that he would not have been open to if he hadn't been visited by that kind of emotionally traumatic experience in life.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of an emotional traumatic experience could really open my son to an awareness that I already hold at a spiritual level? See, I think that your mom graduated from her own misbehaviors at a spiritual level. Her soul knows, that is not really the way to go. Not the way to make the best use of this physical life. I wonder how I could say that to my son, that he would really get it. Because if I just said it verbally, don't do what I did, and so forth, he would probably nod, yeah, okay, Mom, and then blow it off. But what if I found some way? In fact, what if we agreed ahead of time, soul contract, that we would have this opportunity for me to send that message to him in a way that would be so searingly present he couldn't possibly ignore it. So I'm going to suggest that when I was told by God in my conversations there's no such thing as a coincidence, that nothing happens without a understanding reason on the part of all the, if I could put it this way, all the players in the game, all the actors in the scene, then you could almost, at some level, release any lingering sadness you have about what your mom went through and see it as her act of courage, bravery, and her final act of love for you. And by the way, if your mom was sitting between us right now, she'd be saying, Neil, you nailed it.
Yeah, she'd probably say something to the effect of like, that's what it took to get through his
thick skull,
fat, thick, stupid head. Or something. She was always...
Me too, buddy.
Yeah.
Shake hands on that. Me too.
Right.
It took me 55 years of my life to get through my thick skull. What was really going on here? Who I really am? What the purpose of this whole thing is? I mean, I blew off half a century of my life, not knowing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that, and I think you can make great progress to figuring out who you are and what it's all about, and then you can just lose it. It's glimpses that we see it in, and then those glimpses just fade into. I think I do that a lot. Yeah. I think I kind of get to it, and I feel like really plugged in, and then I lose it. I do want to ask about soul contracts. Now, not from Conversations with God, but from other sources. I've seen about how the soul contract, it's a blueprint for life, and kind of choosing what experiences we want to have in our body in order to work something out, have some experience, and evolve in a certain way. And in putting together this soul contract, this blueprint for a life, at that point, we're not in a body. We're so I suppose in between lives. We're a spiritual entity, and as that spiritual entity, I've heard that we will choose our parents. We'll choose our parents. We will make an outline for events that are predetermined, which are going to shape the experience that we're going to have in our life. And then when the agreement is made, part of the agreement is that as we enter the body, as we incarnate as a human, that we forget the whole deal. And then we're kind of, because if we knew the deal, it would invalidate the experience. But my question is, how does the idea of a blueprint, of a life contract with things predetermined built into it,
how does that reconcile with free will?
How does that, how does that jive with free will?
Yeah. You said a number of things there that I wanted to interrupt you with or on when you said them, but I wanted to give you the chance to make your mistake. I mean, to go on. I meant to go on with your statement.
I love it.
First of all, knowing that you made some comment of knowing ahead of time what's going to happen. You said that one of the last things you said so we have to forget. We have to agree to enter into temporary amnesia. Otherwise, if we knew ahead of time what was going to happen, it would invalidate the whole experience. Steve-O, having appeared in probably 36 or 39 separate stage productions, on stage as an actor, I mean. I've also directed many shows, but I've had a rich background in live theater. I can tell you that isn't true. I've done dramatic roles in which, of course, I knew ahead of time what was going to happen in the next moment, in the next scene, because we rehearsed it for 3 weeks, and I knew exactly what the next scene was going to be, what the lines were going to be. That didn't stop me from feeling the emotions and feeling them deeply, as if it was happening to me for the first time. And not that I am a great actor, but all really great actors would tell you that that's been exactly their experience. They cry real tears, not make-believe tears, when they move through a particular scene that they've done for 5 years on Broadway. But they still have the emotional response. Because the mind cannot stop itself, if it's truly engaged in the moment, from responding in the way that love would call forth, even if they know that what's going on is play acting, in a sense. You know, it's you wouldn't know what it cost me to have those people out there doing that
At the right time.
Well, yeah, I've paid them a lot of money to interrupt.
I'm gonna tell him this.
So I'm not altogether convinced that knowing ahead of time would stop us or prohibit us from having an emotional response, a genuine one. I've encountered moments in stage plays in which I've appeared, where I knew what was coming, and even knowing what was coming triggered the emotional response that what occurred in the play was designed to trigger. So that's one thing I just wanted to say, is that I'm not sure that we have to not know in order to have a genuine emotional response and have the experience that we came here to experience. But now, let me go back to something before that you said that I also am not sure that I totally agree with. I don't think that there's a blueprint. I don't think that that we have a contract that says, on a certain day at a certain time, you're going to sit down with a man named Steve-O and have a conversation in which you make him terribly wrong for 3.5 minutes. And he laughs at it. I don't think that this experience was agreed upon by us, nor do I think the major events of my life were agreed upon in terms of the events themselves. Okay. So my understanding, because I asked God the same question. Wait a minute, how can there be a contract? How can there be an agreement and also be free will? They seem to be juxtaposed. So God said, good question. The understanding that I have, Steve-O, is that events are not planned ahead of time. We don't have predestination and free will are mutually exclusive. Right. But what the souls do agree with is to create certain emotionally filled opportunities. But how that will play out in terms of a specific event is not designed ahead of time. So to use the present example of your mother's last 5 years of her life as an example, she might have in fact, I don't think she might have. I think there's no question that she made an agreement with your soul. You guys made an agreement. How about if I provide you with an opportunity emotionally to grapple with deep personal sadness, maybe even at some level emotional injury, such that it would transform and change your life and bring you to a new understanding that you are going to go into your next lifetime in order to have. And you could have had that contract, say, okay, I'll sign here, let's do that. So we agree on the emotional content that we're going to seek to create for each other, but we don't agree on, it's going to happen on the 14th of July at 2:30 in the afternoon, and I'm going to be having bed sores for 5 years, right. And this is how it's going to look, because that would make free will impossible. Right. So my understanding is that we agree on the emotional content, but we don't. We're like players in an orchestra, Steve-O. The analogy that God gave me was, there's a 67-piece orchestra, and by the way, I've conducted orchestras, so I know all about what this feels like. They're all playing Mozart, but one guy's playing a flute, one lady's playing a violin, one fellow's playing the timpani, and one man is on a saxophone. They're playing the same music, but in different ways, using different instruments. So I think that this whole contract is an agreement on what music will play. Now that you know the score, you understand what I'm saying. Right. Is that a play on words you love or what?
I love it.
So we're all playing Mozart, but you're on the violin, you're on the cello, I'm on the timpani, and we're playing it the way we are playing it. And in that way, free will is memorialized. Free will is protected. Free will continues to be part of our experience. We freely choose to enter into particular interactions on the physical level as the way we have decided we're going to keep our agreement in terms of providing emotional content for each other to grow with.
Okay. I think that there is a potential wrinkle here when we talk about other players in the universal game joining us and does that can you help me understand what happens when another player in the game becomes involved in my life?
I think it's important for us to understand that everything that's ever happened is happening now and ever will happen has already occurred.
Right.
So when another person joins in the interaction in some way or another, they're also doing so, I'm not sure where the wrinkle is, because they're also doing so as an expression of their free will. That is, they have a choice to do that or not to do that. And by the way, both things have occurred. See, it's very important for us to understand what's going on here. Both, let's just say, your co-host's name again is?
Scott.
Scott. So let's just say that now Scott is sitting there and he's interacting with all of us. But it was also a moment when we did this interview when Scott was not here at all. In fact, you never even met Scott. He wasn't even part of your life. Both things have happened.
Right.
And so what I was told in conversation, I know this sounds like I'm making it up as I go along, but really, this is really important because I asked these same kinds of questions in my dialogue with God. And she said, Neil, it's really very simple. You think there's only one timeline, but there are 100 different timelines in which everything has occurred. And I said, I'm having a hard time conceptualizing it. I can hear the words, but I can't quite get that in my mind. And God said, okay, have you ever played chess with a computer? I said, sure, I played computer chess. God said, you do understand, of course, that all the moves have already been made. Every single move in the game has been made. So you play the game on Thursday, and you move, king's pawn to king's pawn 4 or whatever, and then the computer goes, makes its move, and you make your move, and it makes its move. How does it know what move to make? It's because you've already made that move. It's already happened. But on Friday, you play the same game and you make a different move. So you can play the computer chess game, and you have to understand that all the moves that are possible with all the players on the board at any given moment have already occurred. The game's been played already 1,000 times. That's how they programmed the game, because computer chess experts sat down and said, well, okay, but supposing you didn't move your knight there, suppose you moved it over here. And they took months programming the game so that no matter how you play it, the computer has an answer. I sat there, I played computer chess, Steve-O, whatever. I was played the game, and the computer would make its move, and I'd spend like 2.5, 3 minutes trying to figure out, let's see now, if I move the rook here. No, wait. I'll move. No, if I did that, he's going to do that. Oh, like you play chess. So I figured out all the moves. I thought, okay, I'll move over here. It took me 3.5 minutes to make that move. The computer sees the move, it goes, makes its move in 1/10 of a second. So, wait a minute, don't you have to even think about it? So, it's already happened. This is not a new thing for me.
Right.
So the answer to your question is, as I understand it, Steve-O, is that when a person comes into your life, they're also exercising free will, and there have been many lifetimes, many times through the time tunnel when that person did not come at that moment into your life.
I wasn't thinking as much of people. I was thinking, and in my reading of the book, I'll highlight certain things, and I was going through it, and there was it said players with a capital P in the universal game, and they'll come into your life, and I didn't interpret that as people, but like more, spiritual entities, I suppose.
I think that's a fair interpretation. My mind is telling me that also could be true.
Yeah.
That we are visited by spiritual entities, angels, your guardian angel, whatever you want to call it. And I by the way, I've had those experiences as well.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask that is because I feel somewhat strongly that there were times in my life where, for lack of a better way to describe it, I want to say there were times when I wasn't at the wheel. Like, I did something that makes no sense to me. Like, why did I do that? And I felt that it was important that this thing happened, but looking back on it, I just don't see. I don't understand why it happened. I don't understand why I did it, and I feel like I wasn't at the wheel. Maybe there was some other player in the universal game that kind of stepped in and somehow manipulated what happened for a desired outcome. Now, I reserve the right to be totally wrong about that, but I wanted to put that to you about, like, what are your thoughts about if there ever being a time when I wasn't at the wheel because another spiritual entity manipulated what happened with me?
I disagree with that particular description because that would also violate free will.
Right, that makes sense.
And so that another entity could not cause you to not be at the wheel.
Okay.
But here's what I do think happens in moments like that, because I've had those moments too. When it felt like I wasn't at the wheel, excuse me, and it felt like I wasn't at the wheel, not because I wasn't at the wheel, but because I didn't know that I was.
Right.
And I didn't know that I was because I was at the wheel, to use the metaphor, driving the vehicle of my life from a different level of consciousness. I'm aware that we're functioning in every moment of our life at the subconscious, at the conscious, at the superconscious, and at the supraconscious level. And when we're responding from the supraconscious level, or even the superconscious level, we also often do things that we are not consciously aware of why we're doing that. What would cause me to do that? Why would I, like you described? Why would I do that? So I think that those moments are moments when we are functioning at the super or supra-conscious level, at a level that our conscious mind is not aware of. But that does not mean that the totality of who we are,
Right,
at all four levels, is not at the wheel. It just means that we're not aware that we are at the wheel.
Right.
It's kind of like, when you're sleeping and you're not aware that you're awake, but you are awake and you still think you're dreaming. Most of us have had that experience, only to realize, wait a minute, I didn't dream I didn't dream I heard that sound. I actually heard that sound. I'm not.
right.
My God, you mean I've been awake all this while? And most of us have had that experience of realizing that we're awake, but not knowing that we were awake while we were awake until we awaken to the fact that we're awake.
Yeah. I think potentially an equally valid interpretation of
You gotta love it, right?
Yeah.
You gotta love. I mean, you gotta love the mystery. You gotta love the mystery. Excuse me, but
Oh, no, it's great.
I mean,
So are highly evolved beings operating at the supraconscious level, or is it just a different ballgame at that?
I think both are true. I'm not suggesting that highly evolved beings are interfering. See, highly evolved beings would never interfere with our life. That's another reason why they couldn't do
Right.
what you're suggesting, Steve-O. Because a highly evolved being would never want to have anything to do with your life that would control the moment for you
Right.
and take your hands off the wheel. That would violate the ethics of a highly evolved being that said, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'll give him advice. I'll maybe give him a little, but I'm not going to take the wheel from him, and then make him think that he lost control of the car. So highly evolved beings would never do such a thing, in my understanding.
Right. I think that's very fair to say. And I think an equally valid interpretation would be that when I thought, like, what I thought might have been another player stepping in and manipulating my experience was actually me. right? Like that other player was me.
Bingo.
You know, so
That's what I've been trying to say, except you put it in 10 seconds words. 10 words, and I put it into 150 words. Darn it.
At least.
it was something that you just said too about that would violate the ethics, and I think it wouldn't just violate the ethics of highly evolved beings, but it would violate the immutable laws of the universe.
Well, of course, Star Trek.
Yeah.
And what was the prime directive?
I can't.
Well, the prime directive was, you were not to interfere in any way in the cultural or sociological or spiritual development of another civilization, even though you would see it was for their own good, not to interfere.
Right.
That's the whole point of the prime directive.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period of my life where I was experiencing what's called psychosis, because I was ingesting just all of these substances. I would be awake for days on end, doing cocaine and inhaling with inhalants and all these combinations of sleep deprivation and acute intoxication from the substances would bring about psychosis. And my take on that, still to this day, I had, approaching 15 years of chemical sobriety, is that...
Nice going, by the way.
Thank you. I genuinely believe that by ingesting all of those substances, I managed to erode barriers between maybe other dimensions, other situations. I hold in my belief that all of the experiences that I had with hearing voices, with having tactile hallucinations, all of these experiences that I had were very, very real, and that by eroding the barriers of different compartments of the game, that I let in, I consider it frequencies, but I let in, other energies, other frequencies, high frequencies, low frequencies. So I opened myself up to pretty dangerous stuff, like high frequencies being angels, low frequencies being demons. And I had some experiences really scary and some really wonderful. And I view it as a really crude approach to spiritual experience. In these hallucinations, hearing the voices, there was I called it the committee, and I would be kind of communicating with this committee of, and I remember the committee being very, very clear on that rule, that their hands are off. They're not going to interfere with anything. But I just wonder what your thoughts are on that, on psychosis, and because at the time I just wanted to keep in piling more substance and to keep these things happening. I had some really wild experiences, and
that's the danger of it. The danger of it is that it becomes attractive enough at that level for us to want to continue. Now, I really can't answer your question directly, what do I think of it, because I've never had an experience even close to that. So I don't really have an opinion, and I didn't ask in my conversations with God questions around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tried real hard in my life not to opine.
Okay.
By the way, if you think it's easy to work that word into a sentence, try it sometime. You can go years without being...
I've heard it done once in my life.
Yeah.
This is the second.
So I try to not offer opinions on things of which I have no experience, no background, no understanding, and I did not ask in my conversations with God. But when I heard you talking about it just now, my mind was going, I hope that there's not going to be too attractive a picture painted here that would cause a person to say, well, hell, I could see that is a good rationale, a good reason to ingest some things that maybe not be good for me to ingest or to imbibe or to. So we could maybe send the wrong.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, and there is a wealth of evidence, video evidence. Like where I was not an attractive place. I can assure that my life was an absolute disaster, and I was a very unlovely creature. I became at that time capable of being very nasty. I think it's a spiritual law that the way we treat others is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And at that time in my life, my self-esteem, my self-worth, everything about me was degraded to a point that the way I treated others, I had tendencies to want to harm people's reputations, hurt their feelings. And all of that behavior during that time brought about a level of guilt and shame and humiliation, which ultimately would become the greatest motivation for me to dedicate myself to a life of recovery, to not be that way again. So I love that you were sensitive to the idea that I might be glorifying these spiritual experiences when in fact they were
inadvertently, of course, but that someone else could hear that and say,
Sounds fun.
Right.
Sounds like at least interesting. Should give it a try.
Yeah, I don't recommend inviting demons into your life. That's really what it was.
Can I just wrap my head around some things, and maybe you can help me if I'm saying this right and have an understanding. All things are energy, right?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So
consciousness.
Well, plants, trees, people, we all vibrate at a certain frequency. People vibrate within a frequency
spectrum.
A spectrum. The lower the vibration, I heard Wayne Dyer talk about this, but I'm not sure how accurate and how to even test how fast the frequency levels are. But he's something along the lines of, from 8,000 to 25,000 is the average human population, or whatever speed that frequency is. Then you start getting into the realm of 30,000 to 50,000, and disease doesn't really exist at that frequency. And then you get 60 to 80 is Gandhi, Buddha, Mother Teresa, where now you walk at a lower frequency but at a higher level. You walk into a party and there's just something about that person in the room, and you're like, man, you're kind of attracted to that person. Then as you get higher in the frequency, like Mother Teresa, or people come from villages to go flock to see this person. The attraction is there and everybody wants to go see this person. And then as you get to the highest frequency is Jesus Christ, or the Mahavatars of the world. Am I spot on to think that, or am I off in some sense?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I didn't ask that question, but I think that my mind feels that there's some truth. I'm not sure that the description is wholly, completely, and 1,000% accurate, but I think it's close to what could be true. I don't think there's any doubt that people are, and that every living thing, as you mentioned, every living thing is vibrating at a different frequency. And I don't think there's any doubt as well that the higher the frequency is at which they're vibrating, the more they tend to display, demonstrate, express what those high frequencies have made clear to them, what they've come to understand about who they are and why they're here. And I don't think there's any doubt at all that those high frequencies tend to be magnetic. Mm-hmm. That we do, in fact, tend to be attracted to people like that. I knew a man like that, by the way, on a personal level, that I appeared with at several events in the past 20 years. We didn't co-present, but he was appearing at the same event I was appearing at. His name was Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was a Buddhist monk. He's since celebrated his continuation day. But I was at several events with Thich Nhat Hanh, and I promise you that, and we had speakers, we always had speakers' dinners or speakers' receptions where the general public was not there, just the presenters were there. So there were only maybe 10 or 12, 15 of us, as opposed to 1,500. I'm in the room with, like 10, 12, 15 other people, and Thich Nhat Hanh walks into the room. I promise you that without even looking at the doorway, maybe talking to somebody else, everybody in that room knew that something incredible had just happened. That he walked in the room. He didn't say a word when he first walked in. We all knew that he was there. It was his energetic impacted and affected the entire room because of the frequency that he was bringing with him, that he was projecting.
I wonder, when you describe people coming from other villages, and the more, the higher the level of the frequency, the more the magnetism, I can't help but react to that, thinking that there's some pretty low vibrating people attract, it seems that negativity almost attracts more. Like if you look at the media.
I like what you're saying. That's very good insight. When Scott was talking about the higher frequency, I didn't hear him say the better. I heard him only say the higher.
Right, the higher the well, those lower frequency people that come to the the lower frequency goes to the higher, and then they're leaving there on a different frequency themselves. I think it's.
But I think the point that Steve was making, and I'm going to agree with him, is that even so-called negative frequencies, or what we're kind of like intuitively wanting to call lower frequencies, but what we really mean are more negative. For instance, one of the highest frequencies that one can project into the universe is fear.
Yeah.
And no one would suggest that fear is a positive frequency. We would call it a negative emotion.
Yeah.
So likewise, there are people who project so-called, by our definition, by our current human definition, so-called negative energetics, but those energetics are vibrating very quickly. They're very powerful. Fear is one of the most powerful energetics that you could embrace, and when you project fear into the universe, you attract what Conversations with God told me that. Neil, you will attract what you fear.
Wow, that's pretty heavy. You attract what you fear? It's a good thing I don't fear a bad diet, because I got AG1 from Athletic Greens, baby. The most delicious, comprehensive, convenient daily nutrition there is. It plugs in every gap in my diet. I'm telling you, because it's loaded with 75 different vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens. I'm telling you, they load so much good stuff into this. I don't have to be afraid of anything about my diet. Plus, it's great for my gut health. It's great for my cognitive ability. I mean, dude, it's called Athletic Greens for a reason. And AG1 is the supplement of all supplements with everything you need. It is comprehensive and convenient. And if you go to athleticgreens.com/Stevo, they will give you 5 travel packs plus an entire year's supply of immune-boosting vitamin D with your first order. You can't beat it. Go to athleticgreens.com/Stevo, and let's get back to it.
Not because your frequency is so low, but because it's so powerful. That fear and love are almost equally powerful in terms of the energetic that's sent into the universe. Of course, fear is nothing more than an expression of love. That is, if you didn't love anything, you'd fear nothing. If I didn't love my life, I wouldn't fear losing it. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't fear losing you. If I didn't love money, I wouldn't fear not having enough. So fear is always an expression of something that you love. It's simply the other side of the coin. It's just the inverse expression, but it's this. So it carries the same power, the same energetic, the same frequency, which is the point you made, and I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
So once again, Steve is wrong and you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you're
it's
Steve.
always that
Scott's
way.
wrong.
Right. It's always that. No. Yeah. That when the law of attraction phase came out, in the early 2000s, and everybody there was that book or that movie that came out.
Yeah.
Maybe What the Bleeper. I don't remember. The Secret. And
Which I was in, by the way.
yeah. And the one thing that some people were talking about that got it wrong. Law of attraction is there, but what they didn't touch upon was the law of resonance. That what you put out will come back to you equally. So when you're like, okay, I don't have any money, like, okay, law of attraction, like I want money, like where's my money? It's going to come back to you at the same way. Whereas if you had like gratitude, like I already have all the money I need. And then all of a sudden that kind of starts showing up back in your life in that sense.
You know how I've conceived of that in my world? I agree with everything you've just said, Scott. And how I was told that, what I was told in my life by God. God said, I only have one word in my vocabulary. I know you think that I'm really verbose, that I have a lot of things to say, but the truth is, I have only one word in my vocabulary.
Be love.
Yes.
Oh.
Right.
So if you say, I want more money in my life, God says, yes, that's true, you do. I'm tired of living alone. I want my perfect partner in my life. Yes, you do. Yeah, I'm afraid I might lose all that I've gained in my work so hard. I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. God said, yes, you do. But if you say, all the money I need is coming to me now, God equally says, yes, that's true. So what I've learned is that when I get that God says yes, there's only one word in God's vocabulary. Whatever I say, whatever I think, God says, yep, I agree with you. You know why I agree with you? Because you are me. Because I've invested in you all the power to create your reality that I have invested in myself. That you are, in fact, a living demonstration, an individuation of me. So, of course, I'm going to say yes to whatever you say, because, my friend, your wish is my command.
The game-changing quote in your book that changed my life about money was when you were writing to God, and he responded with, you're unhappy with your money situation because you're unhappy with your money situation. And that was like, oh my God, that summed up everything for me.
When The Secret wouldn't, I read the Law of Attraction book when I was in early recovery. I was still in rehab. And I wonder if you've heard of this. I had a very, very scary reaction to it. I thought, so what I think will become my reality. And then it occurred to me, well, they say if you tell yourself, don't think of a pink elephant, then all of a sudden, all you can think of is a pink elephant. So by the rules of the law of attraction, what if I tell myself, don't think my greatest fears, because then they'll become a reality. That's what it is. The what you think becomes your reality. Oh no, now I'm telling myself, don't think about my biggest fears, because then that one, and then, oh no, now all I can think about is my greatest fears. So now my greatest fears are going to become my reality. I became,
In the Hall of Mirrors.
yeah. I
Don't
ended
think
up in
about
a
cancer in your left leg.
That was what started my journey to the
dude.
psych ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the Hall of Mirrors here. That's a very interesting and wonderfully incisive description of, in fact, some of the challenges we're all facing here. It's like, going into the fun house at the carnival and all the mirrors are warped, and and you're in the Hall of Mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
What you're sending out is reflected back to you. What you're sending out is reflected back to you. And if you don't want to send it out, it's reflected back to you. That kind of a thing. Until you finally wake up one day and say, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I can even decline that effect. The whole thing is an illusion. Wow. The whole thing is an illusion. I'm living in the 10 illusions of humans. The whole thing is made up. I can even describe that effect as beautifully as Steve-O as you just did now, and I can say no. I don't have to even find myself seduced by that impact. I can just say I'm above all of that.
What I did that I found most helpful was to go back to the notion that the way we treat others is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. I could buy onto that because I saw that was my experience. And I decided that the best way to change how I feel about myself, it would be to flip that. So the same rule would apply, that if I can change the way that I treat others, the effect will be I'll be changing the way I feel about myself.
There was a guy who made that point a few years ago. He put it in a somewhat different way, but it was the exact same point. He said, do unto others as you would have it done unto you.
It's the golden rule.
He made the point. Exactly the point you just made.
Sort of, yeah.
Not sort of, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I
do unto others as you would have it done unto you. How much more clear could it be? You're exactly right. And by the way, I just admire that you came to that awareness. Oh, wow. How I treat others is a reflection of how I feel about myself. And I can change how I feel about myself by treating others the way I want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. That's world-changing, Steve-O. It's life-changing and world-changing. Supposing that everybody on the planet got that piece of information tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, everything would change.
It's more about seizing upon the opportunity to feel like a guy who treats people well. You know, like I was talking to a friend who's having relationship issues, and I said, that with my fiance, I have something I don't always do it well, but when I do it, I benefit from it a lot, which is to view every situation I find myself in my relationship as an opportunity for me to express myself as the person who I aspire to be. And it's a little way of taking something that, maybe it's a pain in the butt, but if it's an opportunity for me to be a great guy, then yeah, I'll go to the vet at 2 a.m. because you think the dog might have eaten chocolate. Well, it probably didn't. It's gonna be fine anyway, but let's go.
That's a relationship changing insight. I hope that all of the many, many, many people who view your programs, Steve-O, hear you. That's a relationship changing insight.
That's the best thing I've ever done for my relationship is selfishly use it to feel good about being a good guy.
And to realize that even when the person across the room is not behaving or responding or demonstrating an aspect of themselves that you'd like them to demonstrate, even when they're being, cruel or short or snippy or whatever, or unreasonable, 2 o'clock in the morning, the dog didn't have chocolate. I'm not going. Even when they're being unreasonable, that we can say, oh, I see the gift here. I see the gift. That's the title of your next book. No, really. That's the title of your next book. I See the Gift by Steve-O.
All right.
That's cool. Yeah, and the truth is, it was probably Steve's Reese's Pieces wrapper, and he blamed it on the dog. So he just went to the vet because he was like,
He's just barking up the wrong tree.
Can I ask you a question about the Conversations with God movie and how accurate that was? There was a scene there that I was interested in. You were homeless. you started you were sleeping on the couch. You started having the dialogue with God, and you hadn't had any money for a while. And then there was a part, I believe, at the airport. You're at the diner at the cafe, and they made you an offer for $4 million for the transcripts. And in the show, the lady turned it down, and you were like, "What are you doing?" It was that a real situation that happened?
Yes.
And what were you thinking?
It wasn't the lady that turned it down. I was here. The guy turned it down. It was the lady who made the offer.
Yes. Sorry.
She didn't turn it down. She was, in fact, the president of a major publishing company. And my then publisher, she was wanting to buy the book from him and future books. And he turned it down. And I started to check. I said, well, but this is as far as I got, because he's under the table. He stepped on my foot. He slammed his foot, his shoe on the top of my foot, like, shut up. I'll handle this. But it wasn't. My memory of it wasn't $4 million. It was $1 million. And then he or maybe it was, who knows? But I think that she offered $1 million. He looked at her and he said, I can do that myself. I don't need you. We can do that on our own. My publishing company, the small publishing company that first put the book out. Then she came back with an offer of 1.5. Is my memory of it.
Okay.
She came back with an offer of 1. Which in those days was worth about, in today's money, more. But in any event, she came back with 50% more, and then I wouldn't let him turn it down. I just said, but I asked her. I said, why do you want to? Why would you make an offer like that? What? Tell me what you see in this. And she said, I'll never forget her words, by the way. She said, because I think your book could change the world.
Is it true that Conversations with God, Book 1?
Can you hold that question?
Yeah, of course.
Because we didn't get to your. Did you have a question behind that? Other than
I think I mean it's like assuming living in a tent in Oregon, and you have $0 in your bank account. I mean, what are you sitting there thinking when somebody offers you $1 million and the guy turns it down? I mean, what's the fear there? Is like, it's never happening. Like, what were you thinking when they turned it down? Like, were you like, oh my God, what did they just do? I just made a mistake, or?
Yeah, I started to say, but he stepped on my foot.
Yeah.
So he didn't step on my foot. He slammed his shoe on my foot, like, shut the hell up. I'll handle this. The unspoken message. So yeah, but I did think at first, the guy's crazy. Why would he turn that down? And because I knew I would benefit, obviously, as well. But so yeah, I was pretty taken aback.
Before that, when you had no money, and there was probably some resentment towards God about I'm broke, I'm this, and then you wrote it on the couch, and you heard the quotes. You'll be happy with your money situation when you're finally happy with your money situation. From that, did your thought on money change?
My thought on everything changed.
And it was more of a gratitude. And then from that time, when everything changed to where you got that offer, like you were practicing the gratitude of money's coming my way, or.
Yes, but that didn't stop me from. You mentioned about a half hour ago, you're in it and then you're out of it, then you're in it, then you're out of it. And that was one of those moments, I was living really in the messages. I truly was. I felt like I was pretty much in that bubble, in that cocoon. I had received the messages and I was practicing them and I was getting it. And I was, and then this lady offers $1 million and he turns it down. And I popped out of that bubble like that. Well, wait a minute, this transcends my current understanding. Mm-hmm. So I did, and that's still my experience. That's still my experience, that certain things happen, certain things occur, and I burst out of the place that I'm in. I burst out of the bubble, if you please. I'd find myself knowing what I know, but not being able to express or experience it in that moment. Now, I'll give myself this much, and without breaking my arm, patting myself on the back. I do it less now than I did before. So I've reduced the number of moments like that. But I still have times when I think, like you talked about, who is that masked man? Who's that guy who just did that, who just said that, or just responded in that way? When you know better. So I don't think, I was almost tempted to say, I don't think the game ever ends. But I think that it does. I'm going to withdraw that thought because I have met people like Thich Nhat Hanh or Byron Katie and other people I've met in my life who have reached a level where they don't fall out. They don't fall out of the space. They don't reject what they already know. They don't abandon themselves. But I abandon myself less now than I did 25 years ago. I'll give myself that, as I said.
Yeah.
But I'm not really still where I want to be, and I'd like to get to there. I'd like to get closer and closer and closer before I check out of here. I'm going to be 80 next year. And
Wow.
I'd like to, that was your cue to say you don't even look close to 80.
Oh, yeah, we're close to 80.
That's what I meant by wow.
Do you still meditate every day except on days that you don't?
No, I never did meditate every day.
I do.
I don't. But that explains why you're so far more advanced.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He's glowing over there.
I don't know about that.
But let me retract that. I said I don't. I mean I don't meditate every day the way people describe meditation, because they think it has to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But I write every day. Every day of my life, I'm writing something into the message and around the message and around my life and so forth. So my form of meditation really is to write. And I write hours, not a few minutes here and there. From 7:30 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, I'm at my keyboard, either answering questions from readers or writing another article that's been asked of me for a magazine, or writing for my website. I have a column called Ask Neil, where people, So I'm constantly, so that's my form of meditation. People can meditate doing the dishes.
Right.
People can meditate walking down the street. And I talk about 7 methods of meditation. So when I say I don't meditate every day, I mean not the way people think you're supposed to meditate. But I meditate in my way, and I sometimes meditate while I'm washing the dishes. And I experience the glass in my hand, and the soap bubbles on that glass and the water dripping down in a way that I never did before. I see it sometimes for the first time. So meditation doesn't mean a particular action. It's a particular mental function that allows you to focus in a totally different way on what's going on in your life, including focusing on nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question. And then I wanted to get you to, okay, quick question. Do you still hold the world record for being on the New York Times bestseller list longer than any other book with Conversations with God, Book 1?
I don't know.
I understand it was almost 3 years. Like, I believe it was 131 weeks.
137 weeks, I think.
137 weeks.
I don't know. By the way, that's not any nonfiction. We need to say nonfiction.
Oh, gotcha.
Because fiction books have been on the bestseller list for 5, 8, 10 years, a long time. But nonfiction books typically do not remain on the bestseller list for that long.
Got it.
But I don't know. I don't track that.
I love it because I think that when I describe Conversations with God, I say that it's this book that fundamentally changed the way I view life and the universe. That it's a dialogue. I described that you were at a place in your life you felt frustrated, and that you had been in the habit of writing letters, which you wouldn't necessarily send, but it was an exercise in venting, that you would write a letter to someone and maybe just file it away. But you were at such a point of despair.
My father taught me that, by the way.
Yeah, it's a good practice.
When I was angry, he'd say, write a letter and put it on the mantelpiece. Look at it tomorrow, and if you still feel tomorrow after you read it you want to send it, then send it.
Yeah, the 24-hour rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at this certain point, you were experiencing such despair, you decided, I'm going to write a letter to God. And, why is my life such a struggle? Why is it, everything like that? And that you intuitively received a response, which was, are you really looking for answers to these questions, or are you just venting? And, it's for a lot of people, it's a difficult pill to swallow that you're able to write both sides of the dialogue, yours and God's. And to the extent that that's a difficult pill for some people to swallow, we look at how long it was on the New York Times bestseller list, which adds some credibility, lends some weight to it, And for me, I say it's not necessarily for everybody, but for me, it is absolutely to me, it's the most important thing. What I'm interested in, because I don't think it's been made clear. Can you describe how the intuitive responses come? I think there was some suggestion that you felt your hand moving, or was there?
I don't want to make the case for automatic writing. I did feel my hand moving, but not in the sense that people think of automatic writing. Mm-hmm. Someone else has kind of taken over your body and is writing. More in the sense of, if you've ever owed your mom a letter and you start writing, and your hand is moving without you really thinking seriously about, dear Mom, I'm really sorry, I've let it go this far. Please forgive me. I've been very busy. And you find your hand moving without you really consciously thinking of what I want to write. Mm-hmm. And then after you get all that out of the way, then you start actually writing. The truth is, why I'm sending you this note is,
right.
I need $200. Can you help me out? Or whatever the real reason is. So in that sense, but not in the sense of automatic writing. Yeah, how it occurred to me, how it felt to me was, I heard a voice, and it was when I very first heard it, in the very first moment, I would have sworn someone was in the room with me. And I whipped around, and there was nobody behind me. I heard a voice that felt like it was over my right shoulder. And of course, there was no one there, and I thought, terrific. Not only am I furious, not only am I angry with life, angry with God, now I'm going out of my mind. I'm hearing voices. You know all about that. So then I thought, terrific. But then I dismissed the idea that I'm actually hearing voices out loud. But then I began to just receive thoughts, just heard ideas, words in my head, in response to what I was writing. Do you really want answers to all these questions, or are you just venting? I remember writing furiously in answer to what I was being asked. Yeah, I am venting. If you've got answers, I'd sure as hell like to know what they are.
Yeah.
And the response I got immediately was, wouldn't you rather be sure as heaven? I said, what's that supposed to mean? And I realized I was caught up in the two-way. I didn't even try to describe it. I just went with it. And before I knew it, I was involved in a question-answer process that I never stopped to ask myself about. What's going on here? Why is this happening? What is it? I just let myself. And then I began receiving thoughts that never occurred to me before, or that violated every thought I ever did hold.
Wow.
There's no such thing as right and wrong. Or there are no victims and no villains in the world. Or there's no such thing as the Ten Commandments. That was the one that stopped me. I remember dropping the pen when I was given, there's no such thing as the Ten Commandments. I literally dropped the pen like it was red hot. I thought, what is this? What's going on here?
But what did you describe as? It's not 10 commandments. It's 10 suggestions, or?
Yeah, it's not 10 commandments. It's 10 commitments.
Okay.
10 commitments. And what she said was, you will know, because I asked the question when Moses came down from the mountaintop. He said he had been given this tablet with 10 commandments, and he's talking to his people about how they should then behave. And what I was told was, no. God didn't say these are commandments. These are things you must do or else.
Right.
But you've asked, how can I tell my people that they will know that they're on the path? And you'll know you'll know you're on the path. I'll make this commitment to you. You will know you're on the path, because when you're on the path, you shall not use the name of God in vain. You won't lie. You shall not lie. You won't lie. You won't commit adultery. You won't do these things, because when you're on the path, you simply won't do those things. Mm-hmm. And Moses heard it as, you won't do those things, meaning you better not. And so he kind of flipped it around.
Right.
And so, but I rewrote the 10 Commandments as the 10 Commitments as I was given in the dialogue. Steve-O, I got a letter about a year later, a year after that, I guess, after the book came out, from a minister, a Christian minister in New Hampshire, I think. And he said, "Dear Mr. Walsh, I can't tell. I lead a congregation, the first church, in." He said, "I can't say that I agree with your theology, but I will say this much. You have opened the discussion about God in a way that few people have done in my lifetime. And my congregation is talking about nothing else but what you said. So you have broken down the barrier, because in most churches you can't even talk about this stuff. You can't question it.
Right.
Not a lot. And of course there are countries where if you question it, they put you to death.
Yeah.
They sentence you to death because you're not supposed to question what the Scripture says, what you've been taught. So I thought, well, if the worst that I've done is open the subject for re-exploration, fair enough. Fair enough. I want to make something really clear, Steve, if I can, since you've been kind enough to give me the floor here. I need people to understand that I know I didn't write this book. The wisdom, the insights, the statements, the truths that are offered in all 9 of the Conversations with God dialogue books are not mine and did not come from me. I simply took dictation. I simply wrote down what I was hearing, questioned it like anybody would, like you would, like anybody else would, questioned it like, how can that be true? Well, wait a minute, what about this? Yeah, but. I had bunches of yeah, buts. Yeah, but. So all I did was add my yeah, buts. And then I carefully took down what I was given, and I just took dictation. And I sent it to the publisher. I will say this to the various publishers. Nobody has ever edited my books. I've been asked that. What do the editors do when they get your books? None of the publishers who have published my books could find an editor on the workroom floor. Who wants to edit God? So nobody. So the books have been published exactly the way they came off the pen for the first 3, and off the keyboard for the other books. Nobody has ever changed a single word in those books. So, for what it's worth, I took dictation and they published it, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I love it. I would say we should end there, but I wanted to. There was one thing, and I believe it was in book 2, and I loved it so much. It was a point about there being no such thing as time. And in the dialogue, God said, look at how ridiculous, and I'm paraphrasing, but look at how ridiculous your attempt at creating a construct of time is. In order to make it work, you guys are trying so hard to make this work that you've got to not include a day every 4 years to make it work. You're trying to just squeeze, you got your leap year, and then like with the meteor time, like this is just, there's this infinitesimal fraction of a second that just doesn't quite fit. So every so often you gotta not have a second. Like do you not see how ridiculous this construct of time is. It's a
Making it all up.
yeah. I loved that.
Yeah. And all you have to do to realize that there really is no such thing as time is live till you're 80. The closer I get to my 80th birthday, which is now just a year away or so, less than a year away, the more I realize. I woke up actually this very morning thinking about when I was 24 and when I was 14 and when I was 29 and 36, and it really does feel like yesterday. So, yeah. I'm clear that time does not exist in the way that we think that it does. There's only one moment, and that's right here, right now.
I wonder what you think of this with regards to time. Many years ago, probably about 20 years ago, I was sitting there and I thought, it used to be a commonly held belief that the world was flat, that actually the sailors were afraid to ride their ships too far because they thought they would fall off the end of the earth. And we've evolved enough in our science and our understanding that's become an absurd thought, because you can't fall off of the end of the earth because the earth is round. And then I asked my question, I wonder when we may have evolved enough to find it equally absurd that we can fall off the end of time. We have this idea of time as a linear thing with a beginning and an end. But if much the same as the earth is round, we can't fall off the end of the earth, it would follow that time is round. There's no beginning or end. You don't fall off. Time is round, dude.
Yeah, which is said in Conversations with God. God said, take that. I remember she gave me an illustration. You think time is a straight line that goes, it starts here and it ends here, whatever that is, the end of the world or whatever you think. But God said, no, grab that line, and marry it, and you'll see that everything is a circle.
Yeah.
And he said to me, not just time, but everything. Everything is a circle.
Not only is it a circle, everything is a circle, which is actually traveling in a circle, around a circle.
Bingo.
And I also thought it was really fascinating that in book 1, you asked about, is there any limit to how small something can get or how big something can get? And the answer from God was that you can cut something in half. You'll have 2 equal pieces. And then you can take those pieces, you can cut them in half. And there is no point, like literally for infinity, you can always cut something in half. There's no end to how small something can get. And it goes the other way as well. So conceivably, in the space of an atom is all of the information, the history, the future, the possible outcomes can fit like it in an atom. The smallest particle that we can fathom.
Yeah, smaller than an atom.
Would be an atom. Yeah, I don't know whether we're aware of anything smaller
subatomic particles. There are subatomic particles.
So within a subatomic particle, we can fit the entire universe.
Yeah, and what she said to me was, if you go to outer space and look at the universe, you will see nothing different from if you could stand far enough away from your body and look at the particles of your body, or the particles inside the particles of your body. It's all the same construction. So, but the question. These are fascinating observations that we've all become aware of at some level or another. But the real question is, so what does that have to do with life? For instance, if everything's a circle, there's Neil sitting there, and Steve and Neil are agreeing everything is a circle. But If I'm watching this podcast, I got to go, fascinating, but so what? What does it have to do with me at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon? I said, talk to me about stuff that matters to me and produces functionality in my life. And that's what we'll be doing on our second interview, because we're going way over time here.
Yeah.
But if we had another hour and a half, we could take a look at, what is the functionality? Because if the messages from God or messages that we're receiving from the cosmos, from the universe, from the highly evolved beings or whatever, or from the place of wisdom that dwells within all of us, have no functional applicability, then it becomes a big so what.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested. A theology that has no applicability is bankrupt. And I'm not interested in being spiritually bankrupt. So what I've tried to do in the books I've written, that I actually have written, as opposed to the books that I took dictation for, what I've tried to do in the books that I've written following the dialogue is to articulate the applicability of these principles that were given to us in the Conversations with God dialogues. How does that apply in relationship, in the world of business, in the world of work, with regard to money, with regard to health, with regard to, how does that all apply? And there's way too much there for us to get into here, but I can tell you that nothing that we are given in those words of wisdom that I took dictation on is not applicable in a functional, practical way in everyday life, including the idea that it's all a circle.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love you, Neil. Thank you for...
Let me tell you something I admire about you before you say goodbye to me. I really admire the fact that you're so honest. You're visible. You're transparent. You don't try to hide behind anything. You're just completely honest and transparent. And it's hard to find people who are willing to go there and do it fearlessly. Not just go there, but go there fearlessly. So when you do that, you're a demonstration to all who watch your podcast. You're a wonderful demonstration and a wonderful model. And that's something that I admire about you. I've seen your podcasts. It's nice to be on it, but I've actually watched some clips of your podcast. And I think, wow, this guy's in the moment, totally present, and he is transparent. He's hiding nothing. He's being totally visible. That takes a level of courage, to say nothing about the courage it took you to overcome your addictions. So you know what, pal? Nice going.
Hey, thank you so much, Neil. You're my favorite. You're my favorite teacher. You're my favorite author. You're my favorite thinker, and this meant the world to me.
The check's in the mail.
Did I tell you or what? That was just a big deal, man. And thank you guys for sticking around. Candidly, I'm guessing this isn't going to be the biggest performer of an episode, but it was just important to me. And for you guys making it to the end of this one, man, that's more special to me than ever. So thank you, especially for this one. And what else can I tell you? We're in Australia. It's been challenging, frankly. The tour bus that we rented, when it rains outside, it rains inside because there's just hella holes in the roof. But that stopped mattering when the bus totally broke down. And we were on the side of the highway, so I quite literally hitchhiked to the show that night. I mean, I got on the road hitchhiking, like 10 minutes. We had like 8 different cars and trucks pulled over, like trying to get photos and stuff. So hitchhiking's actually pretty easy for me in Australia. But yeah, dude, the bus stayed broke down, so we took a 6-hour cab ride to the show the day after that. Now I'm in this traveling sauna of an RV. The air conditioning doesn't work. Woo! Man, nothing I won't do to get to my shows, baby. And thank you, Australia, for making them such a hit. With that, Thank you again. I love you all.